Hello, welcome to the Absolute Football Podcast, and we are doing another of our season specials, our club season specials, and we've got Maidstone United this season, who had an incredible season, an incredible FA Cup run. And who could we get to talk about Maidstone? Who's got the stones to talk about Maidstone? It is, of course, from our low league show. It is Ben. Ben, how you doing, mate?
Very well, thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad. I've been excited to do this one. We've had a couple of stop-starts, so I've not been too well, but we're here. We're finally here, ready to talk about the season that was for Maidstone. So for people who say aren't familiar with the podcast, did you want to sort of introduce who you are, how you involved with Maidstone and that for everybody watching?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously everyone knows obviously the show and that. Yeah, my name's Ben. I've been on the low league channel obviously for the last sort of maybe few weeks and that. My involvement with the football club sort of started really, sort of 17 years ago, I guess. My dad took me to my first game when I was 9 years old, and we were playing at Sittingbourne, and then I was there when we made the moves to Ashford, and then back to Sittingbourne, and then before we eventually got the move to the Gallagher. So I've been a season ticket holder for as long as I can remember, really. And I've been volunteering with the football club now for around about 9 years now, 5 and as a sort of a radio commentator for our radio station Stones Live. And then sort of the last 4 years I've been involved in the social media aspects of things. So on match days, people will find me on the pitch taking shots of the boys, during the warm-ups, doing the Twitter feed during the game, interviewing players and manager after the game as well. So a lot goes into normally a match day. My involvement's mainly over a match day, to be honest. I do occasionally help out with the odd bits here and there during the week, but not as much as I would in a match day. Very much hands-on, come sort of 12:30 and arrive at the Gallagher. So yeah, no, it's been really enjoyable. It's been quite the season really to be involved with the football club from a national media perspective. So yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. You must have seen sort of from a social perspective, the interest, say, from more the common fan, obviously with the FA Cup run and the whatnot. I bet some of those match days on FA Cup were probably a bit longer for you than some of the normal ones.
Yeah, you could say that. So particularly the away ones, obviously going to Ipswich, that was obviously a mental day for everyone involved. The build. I mean, I think I said when I first came onto the podcast that amongst all of that, I was absolutely shattered after it. I was so tired I couldn't go out and celebrate because I was just like, I need to go in a dark room somewhere and hide myself because it's just been so manic, and even the commentary game as well and all the build. I mean, but this is the thing, like for a lot of media people, this would just be a normal situation for them, in the football league. But for a club like us that like turn up on a match day at National South grounds, it's not quite the maze, that you go to some of these clubs where I don't have a clue where I'm going half the time. I had to Ipswich, I had to go out of one stadium stand and had to go into another. And I trying to navigate myself. It's a bit easier at the Gallagher where I could just go up to the gantry, and then when I want to go downstairs, I just go down the stairs by the tunnel and then I'm there. So it's quite the journey, to be honest. It's opened my eyes a lot more to the other side of the world for a social media perspective and in English football. So yeah, no, that experience itself was great to say the least.
Yeah, it's definitely one end to the other, isn't it? With that for sure. I mean, so lots of exciting moments that we will definitely be coming and covering throughout the podcast today. And so you mentioned obviously you've joined our lower league podcast. You've joined the Absolute. How are you enjoying it on the lower league with the rowdy rabble, as we like to call them?
Yeah, I know. Oh, God, they're a crazy bunch, aren't they? The lower league folks. I mean, to be fair, they've been absolutely fantastic from the moment I sort of came in, even when I came on initially to talk about the Ipswich win and obviously Claire, Nick and Charlotte, I think it was, and on that night, and yeah, they were so welcoming, and maybe so comfortable, and I was really pleased when Charlotte asked me to come on more regularly. Obviously now we know we're covering the National North and National South next season, and that'd be great, obviously from my perspective, because I can bring a bit more knowledge into that. So I think everyone on the podcast has got knowledge of all the different leagues because the teams are involved in it, whereas I can provide it from the National League. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far. Thursday nights have been fantastic for me just to come and chat football for a good few hours, and I've loved the work you guys do. So yeah, been very welcoming. So thank you for that.
We're absolutely buzzing to have you on. As you said, it's an exciting time because we just announced, so for anybody watching this who hasn't caught our live shows during the season, well, and off season as well, we're live on a Thursday night with lower league football. That is EFL, National League, and now National League South and North we will be covering from next season. So there was a clamouring for extra divisions, for more time with the Rowdy Rabble. So Shari's putting some work in over the summer because we will be covering those divisions as well on a weekly basis. That's on a Thursday live at 8:30. So this is kind of like a nice introduction, really, you know, the Maidstone overview, and maybe for some of our other podcast fans who aren't as familiar with the National League North and South, we can cover a lot of that too. So we'll get into it now, and so we've got a little video quickly just on the introduction on what happened the previous season for Maidstone and what they were sort of up against in the season 23-24. Maidstone finished their 22-23 season in disappointing fashion, as a difficult campaign saw the club finish in 24th place in the National League, therefore suffering the heartbreak of relegation back to the National League South. After a successful title-winning campaign the season before, it was disappointment for the Stones and their manager George Elokobi. But relegation to the National League South meant a return to a division and familiar teams to battle against. Elokobi went about preparing his squad for the new season in both the league and of course the small matter of an FA Cup run that we will be covering later. And there we go. So, yeah, of course, it was a disappointing end to the 22-23 season. Well, disappointing 22-23 season as a whole. You are going straight back down. What were your hopes, say, off the back of that last season going back down into the National League South?
I think the initial aim from everyone was to make sure that we were up and around the playoff area. As you say, last season was an absolute disaster from start to finish. I think I said it initially when I came on the podcast, is we signed probably too many of the players that got us promoted, and I thought they did deserve their opportunity to have a go at that level. But I think the problem was that first game when we went to Altrincham, we didn't start with the team that got us there, if you like. I mean, we had our goalkeeper Tom Hadlurst on the bench. We had injuries to obviously players like Jerome Billion-Williams and Juan Luque, who was our talisman, the season before. And we found it really difficult to adapt. I think we thought we'd learnt from our previous experiences when we'd been in the National League. We had the likes of Salford, Leyton Orient, who would throw ridiculous amounts of money, and then you came straight back up, and then suddenly, you've got the likes of Wrexham throwing what was like, to say at least, ridiculous amounts of money, and that was on a new level. So it was very hard to compete against. And I think going into the season, we thought that we need to get a winning feeling back into the club, because it was actually, we went into that first game of the season against Slough Town. We hadn't won a league game for 25 league games. I think we hadn't won since the last November. So it was a long time coming in that. And I think the pressure was on George Elokobi, to say the least, from the start, because he needed to get the winning feeling back in and really get the supporters on his side. Because had he not done that, I think it could have been a very difficult start and a very hostile start for the players and the management.
Yeah, definitely. It must have been a difficult feeling around the club. So going from one division to the next, one where you've been so dominant in your promotion, and then so, as you said, sort of completely coming off the rails almost in terms of failing to win week after week after week. Did that add to the feeling? The fact you'd had that winning, so you got used to it, and then suddenly it's almost like you've sort of turned it on its head.
Yeah, I think you can say that, I guess, because that season we got promoted. I think we went into the second. I mean, to be fair, because the first half of the season we were okay. Then we hit a bit of a bad patch around sort of end of October, start of November, and there was actually a chance, almost for the manager to be, for him to go. And then suddenly, I think the sort of mid-November onwards, we just went on this unbelievable run. I think it was 20 wins in 24 games or something like that. And, we ended up winning the league by 6 clear points. And then you go into a league where actually we started quite well, believe it or not. By the end of August, I think we had 3 wins, I think maybe a draw, and covered the fees. We were actually off to a really good start. And then suddenly, I think after August, we'd only won 2 league games between then and the end of the season, which any club at any level is just simply not good enough. And I think the supporters were right to share their frustrations at it, because we'd worked so hard to get back to that level. And then, I think bad decisions were made, and it is football, and I think it's a massive learning curve, but I think it just showed that we weren't ready for that level. And, I think maybe a few seasons in the National League South would do us the world of good, just to sort of, get a winning feeling, get, money together. So then when we get promoted again, hopefully at some point in the near future, we'll be able to give it a better crack again, because I think we are a National League club at least. with the history the club's got, the fact we've won the conference twice in our history as well. We're a very known name in non-league football, so I was hoping that we would go straight back up as well as the other supporters. Obviously, it didn't quite pan out exactly how we wanted it, but yeah, I thought we just showed that it's a massive difference between the National South and the National League in terms of the standard of football. You notice it straight away. So yeah, it was a difficult season to say the least, but I'm glad we got some some good feelings back into the football club this year.
Definitely, and good feelings as well always come with new football shirts. The new football shirts that you had at the start of the season, and just move this around over here, the other side. There we go. You can see those beautiful shirts in all of their glory. So your new home and away shirt. What was your favourite, Ben? You a home shirt fan or an away shirt fan?
We've actually had the away shirt for a couple of years. Actually, we had it came in, I think, 2021. So we normally do. I think a few clubs do like this. So we have normally 2 seasons of a home shirt and then 2 seasons of a away shirt. So every year we always release a new shirt. So this year we've tried to obviously take it back to that again before COVID. So we're now going to go with releasing a new away shirt this year, and we're keeping the same home one. I've always been a big fan of the away shirt because it actually brings a bit of nostalgia, because we had it back in I think it was the early 90s. I think it was. So yeah, I've always been a big fan of the blue and white. I mean, I've always been a big fan of the white kits we used to have back in the early days when I supported Maidstone, but then we've always had blue as well. The home kit as well, yeah, I think it was probably better than maybe the home kit we maybe had last time. I think it always shined better. It did in the dark. I always thought that, because it always looked too yellow. And the one quote that always wound me up from the Ipswich game, because Guy Mowbray, as much as he did a fantastic job on commentary that day, was there's heroes everywhere in yellow and black, and I'm like, it's amber and black. Please get it right. That's only because of the shirt. It's so much more yellow than amber. That's what gives that impression away. But yeah, the kids, like, I absolutely love, and you see more and more of the younger supporters, and even some of the older supporters, they absolutely love getting the colours on and everything. So yeah, no, I've absolutely loved the kits. They've done a good job of it this year.
Yeah, it's always always the one, and that's the one thing in the off season I always find, is looking out for the new shirts and whatever. It's the one thing to keep us going over the summer. I mean, we do have the Euros this summer, but everything else is, who's out with their shirt? What's the away shirt looking like this year, and all of that. So no, I think they're both quite smart shirts, and I'm sure they sold a lot of them after the after the FA Cup run as well, just to help them with a few more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they. I think, to be honest, it's probably worked out better this year than it did with the last home kit we had, because there were actually a lot of supplier issues when we first got it, because it was just after we came out of lockdown, and we didn't actually get any home shirts at all till like the second, third week of the season, and the only shirts we had were the ones that the players were wearing. So everyone's every day, messaging the club and stuff saying, "Where are the new kits? Where are the new kits?" So from the club's perspective, I've been glad that we've got it done early, last year, and we could get them out quite early during pre-season, so everyone could wear it before the season started. So that took a bit of a pressure off us, it did.
That's it. Got your supply chain in case, COVID didn't help for a number of things. that being one of them, that's for sure. So yeah, coming on to sort of the season, obviously big transfer window and such. I mean, generally in transfers in sort of non-league, low league, it's shorter contracts, isn't it? You're seeing kind of quite a lot of player turnover. Is that something you find difficult? Because I know, obviously, on the lower league, everyone says don't fall in love with a loan player. Do you find that a little bit with with any signing really on kind of short contracts?
100%. I mean, sometimes it's hard in non-league level, because you want to keep hold of players for as long as possible, because you want to build a side around it. I mean, everyone talks about maybe loyalty in the Premier League's not quite there anymore, with players joining rival clubs and that. But I think you see some players, they still reach good 250, 300 appearances and that at the top level, because they're on these long contracts. Whereas obviously we're only doing a year contracts, occasionally 2, depending on how it works really. And yeah, we had obviously a lot of loan players last year, and ones we probably did fall in love with towards the end of the season, because we were hoping that we'd be looking to try and get them in for this season. It still might happen. We're not 100% sure, because obviously there's still a lot of ingoings and outgoings at this current moment for next season. But yeah, it's difficult, because you want to build a side around certain players, and really we've only managed to keep hold of I think it's a couple of players that we've had for more than maybe 2 or 3 years. Sam Corn is signed on for next year, and he's been with us now for 5 years. So obviously, this will take into his 6th year with us. And Gavin Hoyer, we've just, he's just released him. He's 33 years of age. His knees have been struggling for quite a while. So I think George has made the decision now to sort of let him go. And again, he's been an absolute warrior for us in the last 5-6 years. Built a really good relationship with supporters, and that's what we want to try and bring. That's what we've always tried to build ourselves on, is building the connection between the players and the fans. And to be fair, George has done that, because last year we didn't really have that same feel, if you like, that we did the year we won the league, where all the supporters would go up to the players after each game, share a drink with them in the bar afterwards. Last year we didn't have that so much, because obviously the team weren't doing very well, and we were changing a lot of players, and it was difficult for everyone to build that connection with them. So I think that was the main thing this year, was to try and get the players on the supporters side a little bit. And I think, to be fair, they've done that. Obviously they've exceeded expectations with the cup run, and it's built a good profile for them, and everyone's seen now what the connection is between the players and the supporters. And that I know it's a lot like that, a lot for not non-league clubs, but we've always tried to build ourselves out. And George is very much a man for time for everyone at the club. He'll always stop and have a chat with you before the game. Even me, always come and shake my hand before every game. Some managers never used to do that with me, but he always makes you feel welcome. He always wants you to feel a part of it, and that's what he's tried to instill to the players, to get the supporters to feel that you're a part of it as well. And yeah, they've done that this year, so fair play to them.
Yeah, that makes such a difference, doesn't it? That gives you that feeling around the club, and so that time that takes it, and it certainly gives that impression from the outside that that's kind of what George has instilled in the club. So going back into sort of last summer, is there anybody that that came in through the door that you were excited about when they sort of came in? Any marquee signings you went, oh, okay, yeah, we've got a good one here?
I think the first one that probably came out to me, from what I can remember, obviously Lucas Coverland, was the one that we were so pleased about, because it was so frustrating, where we had so many trialist keepers coming in, and some of them just weren't good enough. We had Harley Earl, who's a Maidstone boy, came through our youth system, and he was playing a lot of the pre-season games, and I thought he'd done a really good job. And if we had to start the first game this season, I would have had no issues with it. But the problem was that we haven't seen him as a number one as such. Height-wise as well, he's not the tallest keeper in the world, but my God, he's a good shot stopper. I'll still say he was the best shot stopper of the football club. But when we signed Lucas, and I think we all knew exactly what we were guessing, because instantly, as soon as we signed him, we instantly got in our minds the goal he scored for Torquay against Hartlepool in the playoff final. And we were very lucky to get hold of him, because last year he'd spent a lot of time at Chesterfield, had a bit of in and out time there, I think with suspension and injury, and he was going through mental health issues as well. And I think he came in and he's, probably had one of the best years of his career so far. So we're still waiting on whether he's going to stay on or not. We're not as sure. My likelihood is he probably won't, because he can see the club at another level now after his performances in the cup. So he was one. When we bought in Lamar Reynolds, actually, I know people weren't keen on him at the start of the season, but I always knew he was a good player from his time at Concord Rangers. I remember him the season we won the league. They ended up spinning Georgia Lakobi pretty much, beating him for pace and scoring, such a brilliant solo goal it was. And I knew the sort of player he was, and I thought he's a man of good skill, good pace, and good footballing brain as well. So I was really pleased to get hold of him. And I think in hindsight now, we'd probably say Levi Manchi. I think, to be fair, we looked at him after a couple of pre-season games and we thought, my God, we've signed a donkey here. He was struggling to hit the back of the net in any of the games. And then he scored a tap-in at Leatherhead in a pre-season game. And then just since then, he's just not looked back. And, he went on to score 20-odd goals. And, yeah, he was probably one we were excited about, because we needed a target man. And, he fit the bill perfectly. But, yeah, I think most of the signings that George brought in over the summer, works. It was just a case of gelling them all together, because it was a fairly new squad. We'd only kept a handful of the players from last season, and it was just trying to build that squad again and just trying different combinations. And it did take a bit of time. It was going to, but once he did get it right, we were a very hard side to beat. And I think that's what George's plan was, to try and make us a hard side to beat. So, yeah, that's exactly what we wanted. And yeah, he was getting the wins at the end of the day.
Yeah, as you say, it's difficult. So many different players coming in, trying to install. As you say, pre-season, people are trying to find their fitness anyway, and then they're trying to find combination structure, how it's going to work, and everybody sort of first name basis is sometimes some of the problem in pre-season. Oi mate is usually, I remember from a lot of my pre-seasons when I was younger. Was a lot of the early doors. Speaking of early doors, now we're going to crack on to what we've got over here, which is the first fixtures of the season. season. So I've sort of done the table over 12. I know it's difficult in non-league because there was postponements, and so I've just tried to give kind of where everyone would have looked if it was 12 games for everybody to kind of give a fair sort of reading. But you mentioned sort of earlier on, obviously Slough, that first win, kind of having with that issue, the many losses that you had kind of the previous season. Did that kind of really kick start that you're going, okay, yeah, here we go, back in National League South, we feel good, new players, positive?
It's hard to say, actually, because in that Slough game, we didn't actually play that well, if I remember rightly. I think we were very lucky to get a win that day. I mean, Slough did take the lead, and immediately in your head, you're just going, oh, God, here we go again. But then, thankfully, we were given a contentious penalty. We were very fortunate, which we tucked away. And, it was a very difficult game. Slough have always been, a side that have actually been one of our bogey teams, actually, in recent times. And they were very good that day. They worked very hard. The manager, Scott Davis, I've always rated anyway. He's a player manager for them, scores important goals to them, and he's very influential in midfield. And it was always going to be difficult, but that's the thing. I think it was a case for us is just getting that first win under our belts, just to sort of take the pressure of us a little bit. And to be fair, even though we hadn't watched football for a good 3 or 4 months, it did feel like a big weight had been lifted off our shoulders a little bit, especially for George as well, because he hadn't won a league game since he's been in charge. And obviously from the January when he came in, he'd only won FA Trophy games, and he needed that win desperately to start off with. And we went from that, and then we got exposed a bit. I mean, I'm looking at that Bath game the week after, which was probably one of our worst performances of the season. We were just not at it at all, and I think they scored 2 goals shortly before half time. We missed a penalty, and they took full control of us, really, Bath. And I mean, then again, they went on to have a really good season, so it was no disgrace in hindsight. And then you can see as well, we were going through a period where we had, I think it was 3-4 draws and everything like that. And all those games we were leading as well. And 2 of them we conceded late on, and we just thought we needed to manage games better at the time. It was, a few supporters were walking away frustrated, thinking we should have won that game. I mean, the Taunton one, for example, very poor game. We were 1-0 up. We were cruising, to be honest. And Taunton, I heard that weren't even training, if you like. They just turned up for the games because of the money situation down there. And they got a draw against us. And I remember George was absolutely fuming afterwards, and who could blame him? So, it was it actually looks a lot better on paper, actually, than I thought it was. I thought it was a lot worse than that.
It's surprising, isn't it? Yeah, it's only when you put all the results together, as you say, you remember the games and you think, because if you weren't aware that you were 1-0 up in the games, you'd go, that's one. Yeah, you only 1 loss in the first 7. That's a great start.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I look at it. I mean, the 2 defeats. I mean, Aveley was, that they were newly promoted side. I think everyone probably turned up and I'm thinking, well, we should roll these over. And to be fair to Aveley, they're one of the best sides we played this season. They're very well organised, very well drilled. Danny Scopes, I mentioned it, and after we beat him in the playoff eliminator, they were very much tipped to go down straight away, and they exceeded expectations. They finished in the playoffs, with a squad of their size, with a fan base of their size, a club of their size as well. And they came and done a job on us that night. And I think a lot of supporters walked away from that game really concerned, thinking if we're losing to teams like Aveley, we're really going to struggle this year. And again, but then like those 2 defeats are against sides that finished in the playoffs with us. So you can't read into too much into early season form a little bit, because teams will go on good runs. And then obviously after that game, we actually went on a fairly good run. I mean, we had some astounding results. Obviously, I can see already there, the Worthing 4-0. We were exceptional day, very clinical in front of goal. The Torquay away win as well was one of the highlights of the season, because they, Torquay, for them, we're their bogey team. They played us, I think, 10 times now. We've won 9 of them in recent years. They probably would not wanted to see us again next year, but unfortunately they've got to play us again next year now. So I'm looking forward to go down and play more. It's one of my favourite away grounds, to be fair. But yeah, like looking at the table, I think had we been offered 2nd place after 12 games, I think you would have snapped your hand off of that, because after the season we had, and it was just nice to just be winning games again. And I think once we got that defeat of Aveley out of the way, we went obviously 3 games without conceding a goal, and that's the thing. We thought our defence was our strongest point of our team, and after that they did start to come into it more. They were gelling together a lot more, and we were a very difficult side to break down after that. So yeah, I was really pleased about the start we had.
Yeah, it's a strong start, and it says you expect very early on. Everyone's kind of tight and bunched up in the league. As you expect, it's going to take a little while to get through. So, but of course, alongside the league, and we're going to start the very all the casting on all the way back to before stuff. When you were the big boys in the FA Cup, because we had the qualification matches, of course, that you had to get through to the and Torquay there again, losing to you again, of course, in that run. How are you feeling this kind of qualification bit? Thinking, okay, can we get through? Can we get through to the first rounds for a bigger tie? Were you confident?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We were hoping for any kind of FA Cup run this year because I think people have to remember that last year we lost to Needham Market in the fourth qualifying round. That was our first game of the competition. And it wasn't a game where we can say we were unlucky. We had loads and loads of chances. They took theirs. They absolutely battered us that day. They should have won the game by about 3 or 4 goals. And, we walked away pretty embarrassed, to be honest. And, we just thought we need a cup run this year. We haven't had one for a good few years. And we've always done really well in the FA Cup as well. So, qualification was pretty kind to us to begin with. We went to Stenning, and to be fair, on paper, we're actually going to be a fairly difficult side. They started really well in the league. I think they were 8-9 games unbeaten before they played us. They were very welcoming. And they were, absolutely brilliant to us. And it's mad looking back at it now because we started that cup run back in Leisure Centre car park because our coach the team coach couldn't get down where the ground was. So we actually had to walk. Obviously, I went with the team that day, and I had to walk with loads of equipment. All the players had to come through walking through it in a estate almost. It was a really nice estate actually, but it's because there was just no room for it whatsoever, and that was almost a true reflection of the FA Cup. And when I look back at it now, it makes you appreciate the rounds that you get through to get to where we did. And I absolutely loved my day at Stenning. They were absolutely brilliant and made it a real carnival atmosphere. And that's the thing; it's very rare for us to be, for us to be the big boys in a game, and it was the biggest game of their history. So we wanted to make it as special for them as we could. Supporters were very well behaved. We made some good relationships with the people down in Stenning, and I'm really glad that they got promoted this year. So congratulations to them on that. Come a step forward side. I think it's the first time in their history possibly. And then, you've got Winchester, which was another difficult one for us. They were only a league below us at the time. Bit of a similar ground to Stenning, I guess, although the pitch was very difficult. It was very bobbly. It wasn't...
That's Winchester for you.
It was, yeah, honestly. It just wasn't a very nice service, even for that time of the year to be playing on. And we made very hard work of that one. I think they stayed in the game first half, to be fair to them, made it very hard for us to break them down. And, we had the big man having to come up with the goods again in the start of the second half. Levi Manchi got, I think it was 2 and 5 minutes to see us through. We also had a penalty which was at least a yard or two over the line, which the linesman, which strangely enough was actually standing on the corner flag, because I always thought when penalties were given, the linesman had to stand on the edge of the 18-yard box in line with it. He was actually on the corner flag, so obviously he couldn't get a better view of it. And when you look at the video footage, you think, what was he doing? Although Salwander Smith still needs to take a bit of criticism because he tried to Panenka it down the middle and he ended up hitting the bar and had to go over the line. And he went off celebrating before he realised that it hadn't crossed the line. Thankfully, didn't score from it. So, and also the game was pretty comfortable at that point. So we let him off on that one. And then you look at Torquay, which was and any time going to play Torquay was difficult. But the fact is, we had to go to Plainmoor 2 weeks in a row because we'd gone there in the league, the week before. We travel up in the day. We don't stay overnight, and it's a long old journey. I think we left the stadium at about 7:30 in the morning. You don't get back to about 11, maybe midnight, and you have to do that 2 weeks on the trot. It must take it out of the players. And absolute credit to them on that day in the cup, because Torquay, to be fair, should have been 3-0 up. They were absolutely dominant. They'd hit the bar. I think they pulled up a couple of stations in the key, but they made it very nervy for us. And Torquay have always struggled actually to break us down in the past with whatever team they put up against us. And you knew your luck was in that day, because on the stroke of half time, probably one of the most controversial goals I've seen this season, where actually I didn't actually see it because I turned my head, because Michael Petrasso made this fantastic run down the middle. He took a shot. The keeper, I thought, was just going to claim it easy, or it's do just pick it up. Couldn't pick it up. It took him about 2 or 3 attempts. He just couldn't pick it up. And then Manchi sort of just went, oh, okay, thanks very much, just pokes it in. And thankfully the ref didn't see it, because the keeper had 2 hands on it. It should have probably been a free kick to them. But Manchi always walked away with a bit of embarrassment almost about the fact he'd scored, because we're all just waiting for the referee to blow the whistle, and he's just walking away. And I'm just like, oh, he's actually giving it. And I didn't see it. That's the thing, because I turned my head. I thought he was just going to boot it down the middle, the goalkeeper. So that's why I should always watch until the play is actually over. So that's on that. Second half as well, we came out a different side. It gave us a massive boost. I think it helped as well that Torquay were actually under a lot of pressure. Their players, they've been on a bad run. They'd wanted the manager Gary Johnson out for quite some time, and it became a bit of a toxic atmosphere because they needed a cut run. And the fact is, we're playing the ball around like Barcelona a little bit at times on their own patch, in front of our 100 away supporters that travelled. And Manchi pitched in with another goal. He was always one never to be scoring absolutely blinding goals. He was always just there at the right time, and that's what you want from your striker. And he didn't play well that day, Levi. I think he would probably admit that as well. But he scored 2 goals, and then he walks away as man of the match. So that's how fickle football fans can be. But yeah, it was just really pleasing to get into the first round of the FA Cup. We hadn't done it for, I think it was 4 years. And obviously, when you get to the first round from a club art level, you want a big draw in the first round, and you want to really progress, because for the money side of things, it does us the world of good. So I was really pleased to be in that first round draw this year.
Yeah, real positive there, as you say. So 3 lovely away ties for you. So I could tell a quick story of Winchester. I played Winchester City youth team when I was younger, and the pitches down there were just, were not great. And they had one that was on a slope, and I played up front that day, and there was a fog, and I couldn't see the ball at the other end. There was balls we were playing, and there was a lot of long ball. It was youth football, and sort of suddenly this ball would come out the sky, and then everyone would be stood still on the halfway line, and it was the most bizarre game I've ever played in down at Winchester. But
you didn't even have a yellow ball involved then at all.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, it was none of that. It was just absolute carnage. But as you say, great for Maidstone. They got through to the first round, and that is part 1 of our FA Cup, which we will come back to again shortly. So returning to the league for a little bit. Obviously, we're now kind of up until just to the halfway point. Again, you've had a number of kind of wins in there, but a few draws that have been picked up, and a couple of big losses as well. Where did you feel they came from in comparison to your other results?
I mean, I think the Hampton game was a big eye opener for us, because we'd been on a fairly good run. I think we'd lost, that would have been 2 defeats in the first 15 games or something like that, and then we went to Hampton. I think we were unbeaten in I want to say it was 9 or 10 games actually. We were having a really good run, and all of a sudden just came completely undone. And Hampton, every time we played them this season, or both times we played them this season, the one thing they've hurt us with is set pieces. Every set piece, we just couldn't handle them at all. I think they'd scored in that game, I think it was 4 headers and a penalty. And that just shows, that we were just so lackluster that day. But to be fair, it was a game where, actually we were still well in. I think we went 2-0 down. We got back to 2-2, and we thought, okay, right, now here we go. We've sort of recovered now. We're going and win it. And then about 5 minutes later, we concede another header from another set piece. And you just think, what is going on here? And, the fact is, the worst part is we could have conceded more. It was such a bad day at the office it was for us. I think that's what we put it down to at the time. But to be fair, we recovered. We got a win against Dover side, which on paper we were expected to beat. They've had a very difficult time the last couple of years financially, and and they've had a pretty losing mentality. So 1-0 was the minimum we should be coming away with. But the win at Chelmsford, to be fair, that was a big statement win for us, because they were having a really good season at that point. Obviously, they did end up finishing having a really good season. They made it a tough game for us that night. Our record at their stadium, at the Melbourne Stadium, has never been kind to us at times. And it's obviously a very weird stadium. It's an athletics track, so it's hard to create an atmosphere and that sort of thing. And especially being a Monday night as well. So obviously, I think it was a Monday night. So it was a bit of an odd one, but we got the job done. And that's the thing. You just look at the fact that when we were losing games, sometimes it was never like lose by the odd goal. It was we were getting battered. Obviously, I think I've told it before in the podcast. I had a story about that Worthing game where all the players actually were meant to be going on their Christmas do straight after the game. They were heading to Barcelona. They were, and I think a few of them were too worried about making sure they were getting flights on time and everything like that. And I think it affected match preparation. And I knew the moment that they would start talking about that over the game, we'd lost it straight away. We hadn't even had to think about it. And, the one side you don't want to do that against is a side like Worthing that will score goals for fun. They've got the top striker in Ollie Pearce, and he scored a hat-trick against us without really needing to try, to be honest. So that was a very bad day at the office. Obviously, the players still went to Barcelona, had a good time, but I don't think it's one Jordan doing it, to be honest, and let them go and do that. Not the best time at all. And form was a little bit indifferent. It always is for us around mid-season, to be fair. But the main thing for us was we were just chalking off the wins. I mean, that was one thing that we were probably good at it, to be fair, this year, is the fact that really we were never winning games convincingly, 2 or 3-0. We were always just doing enough to get over the line. And I think, to be fair, that's all you got to do. I think I always remember a quote Mark White said when they lost the lead to us, and he was having a chat with his players after they lost to St Albans, and he said, "Look, you don't need to be the best team to win the league. You've just got to win your matches." And I think in this scenario, it's like we were never the best team on paper, but we had players that were capable of seeing games out, which was the main thing. Because I think after the season we had, I think a lot of us would have said, look, if we're winning games 1-0, we're not playing that well. I don't really care, because as long as we get the 3 points, I am not bothered whatsoever. So, yeah, it was just nice to just chalking off the wins. And we were still up in and around that, top area. We were never going to catch Yeovil Town in, a realistic fashion. So, the minimum was for us to secure a second or third place. And, the fact is we always stayed out there, which was always good. We were never dipping away. We were always in and around that playoff area, which was the minimum we should have been achieving, really.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on there Yeovil. What made Yeovil so strong this season, and what made them head and shoulders above everybody else?
I think it's difficult to say, because I'll be totally honest here. I really didn't think it was the strongest National South I've ever seen this year. And I think maybe that's why we were probably a little bit gutted we didn't go up, because I didn't think it was the strongest it's been in previous years. I think the year we got promoted, that was a very strong National South. You had Dartford, who were chasing the pack. Dorking Wanderers chasing our tail. It was a very good division that year to be involved in. There were some very, close games and entertaining games. And I just felt this year maybe the standard wasn't quite that. And that's nothing. That's taking nothing away from Yeovil, because Mark Cooper, I think he kept hold of a lot of the players that got relegated, or the ones that got relegated, because I think they were in the mindset of we want to try and put it right, almost right the wrongs. And I think the club they are, the back they've got, the fan base they've got, they were sometimes getting crowds of 5,000-6,000. In the National South, that's absolutely ridiculous. And no matter how well you're doing, I know supporters are saying, "Oh, well, they should be getting those sort of crowds," because where have they been the last 10 years? But I think people realise that it's been a bad time for those Yeovil fans. They've suffered, I think it's 3-4 relegations in the last 7-8 years, and they've really dipped. And that's the thing; it was such a massive surprise to see them come down with us. And we all said, look, they're going to be the strong title favourites. Probably them and Torquay at the time. Maybe us slightly behind them. I wasn't too sure, but Yeovil had good experience. I think that was the main thing that got them through this year, was the fact they had really good experience up top. Frank Nouble, who'd scored a lot of goals in the Football League. They had class, defenders, midfielder was very strong. But the good pleasing thing was that we were taking points off them. We got a good 4 points off them this year, and obviously it didn't help us to take the league off them in the end. But they were always entertaining games between us and Yeovil. But yeah, fair play. I mean, I'm not Mark Cooper's biggest fan. I've got to be totally honest. I've never really liked him, but fair play to them, because they would have been under a lot of pressure this year to go straight back up. And they did do it. They did make hard work of it towards the end, but they did get the job done. And yeah, fair play to them. So they can look forward to National League football again next year.
They can indeed. And we'll track that progress at Yeovil next season and how they get on with National League. I'm sure Rochdale will give them a tough time, if nothing else.
I hope so.
So yeah, so very still well in it within the league. Of course, and we're going to go back to the cups. We're going to go to the other trophy, of course, that you were in, but not for long, and probably in hindsight, probably for the best, with the number of games and then whatnot that you had to catch up. An FA Trophy run might have killed you off, but obviously a victory over Dartford and Barnet, obviously a very good National League side. So I suppose a kind of expected trophy run against those teams.
Yeah, I think maybe we were a little bit disappointed we didn't get maybe another round further. I think when you looked at it, Barnet, like I say, one of the top sides in the National League. I think we, to be fair, the Dartford win actually was probably one of the highlights of the season, because we'd scored 94th minute down there, and obviously Dartford are our bitter rivals. We've just never liked them. We've never got on. I know a lot of teams have that, but us and Dartford have been very much bitter rivals the last sort of 2 or 3 years. And the limbs in that away stand after we, Levi scored the last minute goal there. was brilliant. And because we hadn't enjoyed our win over Dartford for a while, and so it was nice to do it particularly in that fashion. But it was just a shame it came to an end. I think, to be fair to Barnet, they were class in the day. They were very much clinical in front of goal. It didn't help as well. We got a red card, which ended up getting rescinded actually because it was a very poor decision from the referee. The trophy, we were a bit disappointed because obviously Barnet we lost to in the quarterfinals last season, and it would have been nice to have a run of the trophy. But in hindsight, now when you look at the cup run, I think it would have killed us with our league form, with the amount of games that would have had to be rearranged had we had gone further in the competition. So I think we can, on this particular occasion, let the FA Trophy go, saying, well, it doesn't really matter too much. We're not so much bothered about it. So yeah, it was probably the run we expected, to be fair.
Yeah, that's as you say. Many other irons and other fires this season. That's for sure. That the needed focus.
Not inside of it's in the FA Cup, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. And of course, there is the FA Cup. We're into the first round. Things are starting to get pretty excited now. Obviously, you got not kind of the big draw, I suppose. You got in the first round, but a winnable, gave you a real kind of opportunity to win. So away at Cheshire, was that a comfortable passage into round two, or a tricky game?
It was a really tricky game. I have to say, I think they came out the blocks very fast on that day. They hit the woodwork a couple of times, I think, in that first sort of 10, 15 minutes. And it was very much the sort of start I expected, to be honest, from them. I knew we were going to have to suffer a little bit. They had 3,000, they had a full capacity crowd there, and their supporters really got them going. I think it was probably the first time in our cup run, actually, where I thought, actually, we could go out here, because I was actually always confident in the 3 ties previous to that. But Cheshire were having a fantastic season. They've gone on to win their league as well. I think they hadn't lost in about 11, 12 games. They were a very good run. They had good players for that level, including the likes of Bruno Andrade, who I know was an established player at National League level at Boreham Wood for a few years. So they've done well to get someone like him amongst their ranks. But once we'd Devontae Arancibia got the first goal there, it settled us down a little bit, and it made things just that little bit easier for us. Don't get me wrong, they still put us under huge pressure. They were very physical up top. I think it's Ricardo German, was very much a handful for our centre-backs, caused us plenty of issues, forced Coverland into a couple of fine saves. And you just thought that we need a second goal in this game. It was always going to be that. I think otherwise I could just see Cheshire nicking an equaliser in the last minute. So thankfully, Arancibia put in a delightful ball for Levi, who volleyed home, brilliant goal. It was actually better from me the angle I was, because I was right behind it, from the stand I was in. And yeah, that's just what he does, really. And eventually we did see it out. It put some pressure on us. I think Cheshire, to be fair, they deserved a lot of credit. I think they really didn't make it. 2-0 probably doesn't tell the whole story, to be fair, because it wasn't as comfortable as that probably looks, to be fair. And they've obviously gone on to do really well this year. And it's maybe not a ground I'm looking forward to going back to next year from a media perspective, because I was very much crammed in there. I always remember there was not enough space for me in the director's box, because when there's not desks in that, I always try and sit in the director's box. There's always a bit more room. So I actually had to sit down at the start with just like the other supporters, and it's very much an old school stand. Because I'm 6'2", my legs just would not stick behind the stairs, and I had to spread my legs right across in order to feel just that little bit comfortable, and I just couldn't do it. But thankfully, I saw a free empty seat when the game kicked off. And I was like, right, I'm going over there, because I'm not filling up. And also you had people right in your way as well, even the ones that as tall as me, because there was no levels in their stand. I'm pretty much straight on looking behind someone's head. And I thought, from a media perspective, that's not great, because I'm trying to tweet what's going on. And I don't want everyone moaning in the comment section going, well, it wasn't that player, when I get things wrong. So if that did end up happening, I do apologise to everyone, but thankfully it didn't on the day. So yeah, it's a nice ground in terms of, a supporter experience, but from a media perspective, not great. So they're going to have to do a bit of work on that before we go there next year. But they were fantastic to us. The media guys were very welcoming to us, and wish them nothing but the best for their first season in National South next year.
Yeah, so we'll be covering that game next season, that is for sure. And Ben's experience, whether his view was any better next season, fingers crossed. We will see. And of course, continuing the excitement, the first side join a league side, join Barrow in League Two, and themselves are having a good season. They had a good season in League Two, and we're not a very difficult opponent. So, and that one coming back from a goal down to reach there, is this the sort of time you sort of go, we're on a bit of a run here? This is something else.
Yeah, it was, because we've had cup runs in the past. We've been actually quite lucky, particularly since we've come back to the town and everything. We've had our famous FA Cup run where we beat Stevenage in round one. It's a Ryman Premier side. They were League Two at the time, and that was in front of the BT Sport cameras. And we still consider that the greatest night we've had down at the Gallagher, because we scored, I think it was last minute, Franny Collin, the bullet header, which was about 3 yards offside, but we won't talk about that. And, we've obviously had great away days. We had Cheltenham Town, we beat them 4-2. And when they were League Two, we were National League. That was a fantastic day out because we ripped them apart. Beating Macclesfield when they just got promoted to the Football League. Even playing teams like in the second round, we played the likes of Blackpool, Milton Keynes. And we just thought, look, our problem was we'd been in this stage. And I think it was the 5th time we'd been at this stage of the competition. We just haven't got into the 3rd round. And it was, we were talking 35 years since we'd last done it. And we had ex-players there, I think, that were involved that day, to watch the game because, they wanted to see us make history. And as soon as we conceded the goal we did, which was an awful goal to concede, there was a bit of confusion between George Fowler and Lucas Coverland, and Ben Whitfield tapped it in, probably the easiest goal of his career. And you just think, here we go again, because we'd worked so hard to get to this stage. You just want to be in the 3rd round. And I just thought, we don't want us to throw this chance away, because I thought we actually had a good chance. I mean, albeit they were doing very well in League Two. I think they were 3rd at the time. I fancied ourselves against them. Because you're at home, you've got a good support base behind you, and I know, and in one-off games we've always performed as a club, and thankfully we got ourselves an equaliser just for half time. Very well worked goal as well. Harry Cripiano, I think, playing the ball for Wanja Smith, who laid it off for Sam Corn, and Sam Corn doing what Sam Corn does, finishing neatly inside the box. And then you think, right, okay, we've got ourselves back into the game here, and then things actually started to go against us, actually, because we then, I think a couple minutes after that, we lost Levi Manji, who had to be stretchered off. And then you're suddenly thinking, oh, crap, because that's our leading top goal scorer being stretchered off the pitch. You're not just thinking about the FA Cup, you're thinking about that's going to damage our league form if he's out for a while. And obviously that was the last time we saw him in a Maidstone shirt before he made his move to Bromley. And you're suddenly thinking, right, we've only got Sol Wamja Smith now at top. We haven't got another striker. So if he goes, then we're in big trouble. Second half starts, Wamja Smith pulls up, and then suddenly we're having to bring in Razak Coleman de Graft, who's more of a winger rather than a striker. So for the last sort of, I think it was 25 minutes against a League Two side in the second round of the FA Cup, you're playing with no designated striker, and you're thinking, we're going to have to hold out for a replay, and you don't want a replay because no one wants to go to Barrow, not at the best of times, let alone Tuesday night as a National League South club, what the distance that we'd have to travel, which would have been about 600 odd miles. So we thought we'd have to avoid that if we can. And Bivish Garung came to our heroics, where he absolutely, thunderbolted into the top left-hand corner with probably one of the best. Oh, sorry, the phone's going off here in my house.
That's him on the phone.
So Bivesh, he struck it from the outside the box. One of the best goals we've seen at the Gallagher, I think. Just the way he sets it up, and if there was any player you wanted on that day to score that goal, it was him. A homegrown boy. Supported the club as a kid, and he'd only scored 1 goal for us prior to that. He'd been with us a couple of years. It was only his second ever goal for us, and if that was the last goal he'd ever scored for us, then everyone would be going, well, remembering this way. I mean, thankfully we've signed him on another contract today, so he's done himself a lot of good. But that goal goes in, and then I think we all lost in that press box. I haven't celebrated a goal like that for ages, and then suddenly you're thinking, we're 15 minutes away from the 3rd round of the FA Cup. It's like, just get everyone behind the ball because Barrow are going to come for it. But after that, they really didn't threaten, to be honest. I mean, I don't think they put us under any huge pressure. The boys did exactly what they had to do, and was just game management, slowing everything down, just putting the ball out of play, just doing everything they could just to not let them get any sort of rhythm. And then you get, towards stoppage time. I think it was like 6-7 added minutes, and you're going, please, not again, because we've been here before. It was a game, obviously, even Charlotte might remember this. We played Rochdale in the FA Cup at home. We were 1-0 up, cruising through, dying seconds. And then Callum Camps broke our hearts with a last-minute free kick. And you're thinking, I do not want that to happen again. They put a bit of late pressures like they did. But they got a corner last minute, and they brought the goalkeeper up, and you're thinking it is now do or die. And you're thinking, you clear this away, that's it, we've made history. And the ball gets played in, the keeper went for it, Sam Bone gets a header in it and cleared it away. And then it was at that moment my heart started beating really fast because I knew the ref was going to blow his whistle. And I'm just like we're going to be in the draw with the big boys here. And the final whistle goes, and I just didn't know what to do. I was so overcome with emotion. I was so emotional. I think I nearly shed a tear in there, actually. I think all of us in that gantry was so emotional after the game because, we just didn't expect it. And to be in the third round of the FA Cup for the first time in my lifetime as well. And, for someone that's been behind the scenes, it was going to be, I thought it won't get better than this. To being a Stones fan, you're in the limelight now. And yeah, the scenes on the pitch were absolutely brilliant. And I was so lucky I got to go down there. I live streamed it on our Instagram page, just getting everything I could. And, George was, in tears. Craig Fagan as well. I think he shed a few tears as well. Everyone just, throwing the players into the crowd. It was unbelievable. Just seeing the faces and the supporters' faces. And, George came and gave me an emotional hug afterwards, and all I could say to him is thank you, because, it was a moment that I'd been waiting for so long to get into the third round. Even if we didn't get that Premier League side, it was just to be in the draw with the big boys and say we're there. And yeah, it was a fantastic day for everyone involved. I was freezing cold. I was freezing cold, but it was all worth it. I warmed up a bit by the time I got into the bar after the game. So yeah, it was a fantastic day for everyone involved. And yeah, obviously we didn't think it would go and get better and better, but it did. So we just didn't know that would be the start of what was to come.
No, I'd say the emotion, say with you being so close to the club as well. I mean, I'd say George Elokobi cuddle. That's what gives you warm. You see, a hug at the end of the game from George. That's what you need at the end of an FA Cup tie. Yeah,
100%.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, 100%. He's absolutely brilliant. The way he is, he's a very huggy person. He is. I've given him hugs plenty of times this year. I gave him a hug after we lost the playoff semi-final. Gave him a hug after these cup wins and that. But that's the thing, he made you feel a part of it. I don't think any other manager would come up to your media staff and you're trying to take in the moment yourself and just hugging everyone. And he more than deserved that. And I think that was probably his first, real moment of, right, I'm here now in the management game, because it's been difficult for him to probably adapt from being a player to being a manager. I think this was the first real milestone for him to think, right, I can do this job. I'm more than capable of getting through these sort of games. And, we always knew his experience would be key to us. And, yeah, it showed, to be honest, both him and Craig Fagan, what they bring to the side. The fact that, they can use their Premier League experience to games like this, because they've been underdogs in their careers for most of it. And, they instilled that in the players and they took it on board. And then that's nothing, you can't ask any more than that. So, yeah, they were very much influential, particularly on that day against Barrow.
Yes, and definitely say to George Elokobi, he's kind of one of those managers there. He must have been so proud as well, having taken them what happened the previous season, sort of stuck on and get to that place. And as you say, then you've got the FA Cup third round draw. Where were you watching the FA Cup third round draw? Were you watching it?
I was funny enough, I just finished a Sunday league game, so I was actually trying to sprint out, to getting all the nets down and that, get changed, make sure I could get back in time, because I had to turn my phone off just in case I missed the start of it, because I got my dad to, make sure we had it on pause, ready to go. So I had to turn my phone off to make sure I didn't get anyone else messaging me about it. So I watched it at home, actually, because, I don't think any of the cup draws, actually, I watched them at the Gallagher. I know a lot of people went down there, but I quite liked watching it with my family a little bit, because it was a big moment. Obviously, I wouldn't be being a Maidstone United fan if it weren't for my dad. So I thought I wanted to share the moment with him, being in there. My brother was there, my mum was there as well. So it's nice to, watch the balls coming out and just seeing who we were potentially going to get. Obviously, it was a bit of an anticlimax in the end, but, just seeing all the draws coming, thinking, look, this is us now. We're the lowest ranked team now left in the competition. And, that's something that we never thought we'd ever say in the third round of the FA Cup. So, yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. So, just a shame the draw didn't quite hit the stands that we were hoping for, but thankfully it all works out in the end, didn't it?
it did work out, of course. Yeah, you chose Stevenage in round 3, of course, who had a very good season themselves. Their first they'd gone up to League One and were having a really good season. So you're up against a third tier side again at the Gallagher. I think was it a record attendance? I think over 4,000 you got in there that day.
Just under that. Yeah. Yeah, because we had about 4,200 for a game against Hampton when we won the league and we held the trophy. But I think it was just about 4,000. It was.
So it's a massive event, and of course, there you got another moment of celebration. How was the Stevenage the Stevenage game for you?
It was more of a state of shock than anything. I think I've said before, it's a very different emotion it was to when we beat Barrow, because obviously we were here in the third round. We had no expectation whatsoever. We assumed we would go out this time. And as soon as the draw came out and we saw it, because at the time it was Stevenage or Port Vale, and I knew full well it was going to be Stevenage, even though Port Vale were at home. And even following their replay, I think Port Vale were leading the game twice going into stoppage time at the end of the game and then at the end of extra time, and then a conceded late goal. You just think, you know what's going to happen. It's going to happen again. Because obviously, as I said, our greatest night at the Gallagher was against Stevenage. And in my mind, as soon as that got made, I thought, I do not want them to get their revenge over us, because that's one thing we've always had. Before we can say we beat a league side in Stevenage, and that's it. So obviously a lot of their supporters would have had that motivation to think, right, we don't want that to happen again. And that game, there was a lot of good build up to it. Obviously, we talked to a lot of the players that were involved the last time we beat Stevenage, which was excellent. It was good from a media perspective as well for us, because we could share all those memories again. And we thought, look, let's make the most of it, because the likelihood is they'll probably come and do us 2 or 3-0. But do you know what? It's easy for me to say. I was actually confident ahead of that game, just because of the build-up and everything like that. You sometimes just get a feel about a certain game, and you just go, right, like we've done it before. There's no reason why we can't do it again, because it was a similar sort of atmosphere that day. Stevenage looks a little bit like shell-shocked a little bit. They're thinking we might be in for a tough one here. Obviously, when I wasn't naive enough to think, look, we'll go and win this game comfortably. This is going to be easy. Not a chance, because this is a Stevenage team that last year beat Aston Villa at Villa Park. And a lot of that team that played that day was still involved in the team. And Steve Evans, is a manager that gets promotions everywhere he goes. So you come up against probably one of the best managers in League One, and against probably at the time one of the best sides in League One at the time. They were, I think, 7th in the playoffs. They were, like you say, they were having a really good season. So we moved forward well. It was going to be extremely difficult, but the way the players started, there was no fear about us whatsoever. We absolutely battered them that first half. I think they got into our box a few times, but never really put us under any pressure, like serious pressure anyway. And then, it was chance after chance. Some of them maybe not so much clear cut. We should have had a penalty as well before the one we got. I think Reece Greenwich was brought down. It was easy enough to see in the highlights that he was basically given a bear hug, and the referee didn't see that one. So big guy, we didn't have VAR on that day, but thankfully, we got ourselves the penalty. Solwan Just Smith claims he earned it. He keeps telling me this, saying he earned it. Well, it looked like he gave it to Jacob Berkeley Atchibon, but to be fair, on reflection, having looked at the replay, the ref, strangely enough, played an advantage when Juan Just Smith was brought down. I thought, why are you playing an advantage? It's in the box. We want the penalty. Obviously we had Sam Corn step up, and we had a few penalty takers. Our record of penalties prior to that game, or maybe the game before that, wasn't very good. So Sam Corner was the next man on penalties. We'd scored one against Tunbridge on New Year's Day, I think, the game prior to that. So we had every faith in him that he'd tuck it away, and there was no nerves in whatsoever. He took a big deep breath, stuck it in the top left-hand corner. It was a brilliant penalty. And then you just think to yourself, right, look, we've enjoyed our moment. We've got our goal, on the TV and everything like that. We've led in the 3rd round of the FA Cup. Fantastic. I can go home happy now. And then second half, Stevenage clearly got, a bit of a hairdryer treatment half time, because they came out a different side and they showed the quality that I expected them to show before they turned up. They, on another day, would have won the game 3 or 4-1. They had some ridiculously easy chances they didn't put away. And it was the one where they crossed the ball into the box. Their guys hit the crossbar. It's come back down, and all their striking is do. I think it was Hemmings. All he had to do was just pass it into the net. He was on the line, but he hit the post somehow. And then when that happened, I was like, "We're going to win this game.
This is our day.
This is our day." That's the thing. When things like that were going for us, and there was even a one-on-one where I think it was Jamie Reid or Hemmings again. He had all the time in the world, to maybe take it around Covenant, hit it straight at him, and we're thinking, this is our day. It is. And again, it was in that tie, we ended up finishing with no designated striker up top, because Solwan Just Smith, who was our only recognised one, because we had Matt Rush cup tied, Timmy Abraham was cup tied, Levi Manchie had gone to Bromley, so Solwan Just Smith was our only striker we had available. And even then, he was very much a big doubt to play, because he'd been struggling. I think it was a hamstring injury, it was a calf injury, I can't quite remember. And he actually walked away from training the day before that in tears, because he'd pulled up in training and he immediately thought to himself, I'm not going to be able to play. I think for a lad of him, he's come through the ranks, he's played in the extra preliminary rounds of the FA Cup. This was the biggest moment of his career, and he thought he wasn't going to be able to play, but he turned up in the day, and I think George said to him, look, give me half an hour at least, see what you can do. And, to be fair to Sol, he worked his socks off. He got through about 60, 65 minutes before we made a change. Obviously, we were 1-0 up, so obviously we had something to protect, so it wasn't a major issue. But, I've already told him I was so proud of him that day because he showed what a man he was by, wanting to play, even when he's in a lot of pain. I think he'd had injections beforehand just to make sure he could get through it. And, at the end of the game, we've got, again, Lamar Reynolds is playing up top. We had one of our centre-backs playing right wing because we were so lacking on numbers that day. And, it was just a case of every man from himself. It's just everyone just get behind the ball. And that last 2 or 3, I wasn't actually nervous on the day, though. That's the thing. Until the last 3-4 minutes, when the stoppage time, that's when the nerves kicked in. Up until that, I was okay. But then Stevenage just got to the point, they just ran out of ideas. They were smashing the ball, aimless balls into the middle. We were just going, well, thank you very much. We'll just keep kicking it away. And they just didn't get it. And the final whistle goes. And I just turned around to Craig Tucker, who's our Kent Messenger reporter. He writes reports for the newspaper. I spend a lot of away games, home games with him. He's a good guy, he is. And we just looked at each other in shock. We're just going, has that really just happened? It's like, are we in the front of the FA Cup? And then the pitch invasion happens again. And I think I said before, I don't think Stevenage fans are quite keen to come back to our ground again because they've been here twice now and they've watched a pitch invasion on 2 occasions. I don't think if you mention it to Farley, I don't think he's going to like it.
He's going to be too keen of a Maidstone trip. No,
exactly. And the scenes are just so different because we were all in a state of shock because Barrow obviously was emotional because we hadn't reached the 3rd round for so long. But to be in the 4th round, we were just looking and thinking, is this really happening? It's like this can't be happening. The scenes were fantastic. The celebrations in the changing room after, and a massive credit, by the way, has to go to Steve Evans because I remember he came into that changing room, and obviously you might want to bleep this out, possibly. I don't know. It's up to you. He came and went, I hope you get a fucking good draw in the next round. And I was like, that was really good of him to say, to be fair, because he came out of it. He could have criticised the ref because, to be fair, it was a day where we seemed to be getting everything from the referee. And it could have been easy for him to criticise it. But he said, look, if we had that referee in our league, we would have had another 10 more points added to the board. He was not bitter about it at all. It gave us the credit we deserved. And he took it on the chin. And it was a bit upsetting when some, supporters and that posted videos of, basically making fat jokes at him and whatever. And I'm just like, look, just enjoy the win. You don't need to go at like the Stevenage players and whatever, because they'll probably just want to get off the pitch. Enjoy it with the players by all means, but just don't get in their players' faces. I'm not a big fan of that. But a massive credit to Stevenage because they were such a class act in defeat. And into the 4th round we went. An unbelievable, achievement for us. It's the first time in our history we'd ever reached it, even going back to the old club that went bust in '92. It never happened before. So, it was a case of, again, we're going to go enjoy it, whoever we get, and, see where it takes us.
Absolutely, history makers in that 4th round, and we have one more part to come. So we're gonna make you wait for the big event because we're back to the league for a little bit. We'll have an FA Cup hiatus just for a few minutes. But how was it affecting you in terms of the league form? You had a couple of away fixtures in particular that were difficult. Was it the distraction you thought it might be?
Yeah, it became a big distraction to us. I mean, to be fair, after before the Stevenage game, we picked up a couple of half-decent results. We beat Dartford as well just after that, which, to be fair, I thought we'd lose that game because obviously it was 3 days after we beat Stevenage, and I thought everyone would just be in such a high. And we actually had to come back from behind in that game. So the credit had to go to the players that night for the attitude they showed and the application, because it could have been so easy to think, well, we're still on a high from Saturday, so this one doesn't mean too much to us. But as it is a derby, and we don't like losing derbies, we were like, look, no, we want to beat Dartford here because, it's a massive statement for us. And thankfully, we got the win that night. And then you see 2 away defeats in a row, and that was leading up to the Ipswich Town game. And it's a difficult one to balance because you don't want the players to miss the biggest game of their careers. And I think you could tell that they were trying to do that with, putting out some challenges which you think in a normal game they would be going for. And, who could blame it? Because it was going to be the biggest game of their history, in the club's history and of their careers. So, it was a tough one to take. I mean, having won probably hurt the most because I want to say, I think one of our radio comments told me this. I think it was the only game that year where we'd scored first and we'd lost the game. And, that's an incredible stat. I think it's like 39 attempts or something like that. And, that's an incredible stat it is. The fact that, again, as I said, we're very hard to break down once we go in front. But to be fair to Havant that day, they were really needing points. They took the game to us. We probably should have been more comfortable up until the point they got their equaliser. And then, it was one of those where we actually had to go, right, that's feet back on the ground a little bit. We need to start thinking about the league a little bit. Then we go to Slough and we lose that game as well. And again, that's the one before we played it, the last Saturday game before we went to Ipswich. So again, players' minds were on that. We'd had a couple of new players come in, so obviously they weren't going to be involved. So they were trying everything they could. But yeah, we just wasn't to be that day. But looking at some of the other results as well, I mean, the Oval Town game was one of our best performances of the season. We were very dominant for the first half an hour there. We'd scored 2 goals and Yeovil couldn't really get near us. They created a couple of half decent chances, but never anything to cause us too much danger. And, they scored a goal pretty late on, but we managed to see it out. And that was a big statement win for us because, they were running away with the league. So we needed that big time. And then Torquay as well, which was a nice birthday present that was that night. It was one of those games against Torquay. We just going, look, it doesn't matter how it's going to work. We know it's going to work. We're going to win this game at some point. And even after they got their equaliser, I think 10 minutes from time, you're thinking, it's right, we'll get another one. Then Sam Corn pops up with this bullet of a goal with his left foot into the top left-hand corner. He walks away almost like, yeah. It's just like, that's what
was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. We all know what's going to happen. And he's just a man who just pops up with the big goals and the big games. And it's even in the league. And that's what I love about Corney. His mentality was fantastic. And yeah, that was an important win for us because it just kept us in the pack. And I always said during the cup run, you just want to be still ticking off the wins in the league because you just don't want to fall away from the playoffs. We've seen it so many times in recent years. I think even Coventry City, looking at them, after they lost to Man United, I think they slipped away a little bit in the league and, they sort of almost put all their eggs into one basket. But the thing is, for us, we, because of our good early season form, it kept us in in good attacks with the playoffs. And, as much as we were getting a few defeats here and there, we were still grinding out results here and there. So it was never a really bad run we were going on. It was just a couple of defeats where you think on another day, if we were fully focused, we would have won that game. And to be fair, maybe had the cup run hadn't gotten the way, we probably would have finished at least second place, which would have given us one less playoff game. And I still think I'd be sitting here now thinking we might have got promoted. But I think on this occasion you would have much rather had the cup run because it was a cup run for the ages, wasn't it? So yeah, it was brilliant, and so we kept ourselves in that pack, which was an important thing. We knew Yeovil were going to run away with the league, but it was a case of, look, can we just get second or third place? And obviously looking at that time, we were a few games behind, but Worthing and Chelmsford were just starting to create a little bit of a gap, so we had to make sure we kept up with them, and we were still doing that. So fair play to that, because it's easy to lose your mentality when you're you're in the limelight of FA Cup glory and the media, but they kept their focus still in most of the games, and we're still getting the results that we needed. So yeah, fair play to them.
Yeah, 100%. So difficult with that distraction and that, a sacrifice, necessary sacrifice in some aspects for the league. It was kind of going to be inevitability, but as you say, you kind of still hung on in there. That's for sure. And so that definitely does take us to the big game, the massive game of the season. And say for any of those you could possibly have forgotten, just a little video here to remind everybody of what happened on that day against Ipswich Town in the FA Cup. And what turned out to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest game in the club's history. There was fever pitch ahead of the match, the cameras were there, it was on television, everyone was excited. Could there be an upset for the underdog? The match began and Ipswich absolutely dominated. They were camped inside Maidstone's half with possession and chances left, right and centre. But goalkeeper Lucas Coverland was in inspired form, making save after save. On loan Brighton midfielder Jeremy Sarmiento shot the inside of the post from distance. Chelsea forward Murray Hutchinson's deflected effort came back off the upright as well, and also Nathan Broadhead hit the woodwork. Hutchinson and Morsey also saw shots saved by Coverland, he was working overtime, no doubt about it, but he was keeping Maidstone in the game. Now, the visitors had only managed 22 completed passes in the first 20 minutes. It looked like things were going to be difficult for them all afternoon. The only threat they really had was a couple of long balls and pacey counter-attacks, but it was giving them hope. Incredibly, they then went ahead. The goal was beautiful, both in how it was made and how it was taken. Maidstone were calm in defending a set piece, and Liam Sol's delightful over-the-top ball. He picked it out into space and found Lamar Reynolds. He raced on to chip the keeper Christian Walton after a brilliant first touch, sending the Maidstone travelling fans into absolute raptures. But Ipswich were going to come all afternoon. They had some quality on the bench as well to threaten throughout, and they got their equaliser as Jeremy Sarmiento's clever strike after cutting in from the left. But Maidstone were not done. Hero Sam Corn, who had been a fantastic goal scorer in all the rounds of the FA Cup. He managed to hold off Edmondson as he was through, coolly finishing inside the near post after being teed up by Reynolds. Maidstone in raptures again. They'd taken the lead. It was 2-1. Ipswich then continued to come. There were some tense and nervy moments late on, but Maidstone held on for what was an unbelievable underdog victory at Portman Road. Afterwards, George Elakobi spoke to BBC and he said, "This is what it means to our community. It's about us being together on days like this. It's up to the players to go out and enjoy competing against a fantastic championship side. We had to be lucky in the first half and then we had to be resilient. And we knew they played so high so we could catch them on the break if we played the right passes and had the runners behind." An unbelievable day for Maidstone, one that will never ever be forgotten by their fans and live long in FA Cup memory. But let's find out what Ben thought all about it. Wow, there we go. Ipswich Town, who now are obviously a Premier League side, at the time were sort of fun. So I imagine that adds that extra little bit of fantastic at the end of the season. How do you explain what happened on that unbelievable day in the FA Cup?
I still can't. That's the thing. We're how many months on now? 5 months on. You still can't explain it. And for a long time, it just won't sink in. You have to keep watching it over and over again to really understand. You think, look, did we actually do? Did that day actually happen? Was I just dreaming that? I mean, when the draw got made, I was initially disappointed because you saw there was a lot of big Premier League clubs still in there. And you get drawn against Ipswich, you immediately do think, look, they're doing well in the Championship. We're going to go out. Simple as that. And you thought that was probably our big chance gone to really get a big Premier League side. But after a couple of days, I came round to it and thought, you know what, that's an excellent draw for us. Going to a side with the history that Ipswich have got. They've had two of the greatest managers in English history with Bobby Robson and I can't remember the other chap's name. It's Alf Ramsey. And you just think, like, we can't go to a club like that. They've won the FA Cup. They've won a European, UEFA Cup as well. You think, like, oh, surely we can't go and do it again. And the build up to the game was something like I'd never seen before. Like, it was, scarves in the shop windows. There was signs across buses in Maidstone saying, "Come on, you Stones." We'd never seen anything like that before. Even things like the press conference before the game. We'd never had a press conference quite like it, with the FA Cup boards behind them. National media all in the Spitfire Lounge. It was absolutely crazy. It was, and I was fortunate enough because I got to travel. Well, didn't travel with the team on the day, but I stayed at the same hotel as them because me and the media team wanted to go up and enjoy the experience, a lot more. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you from in the hotel, and everything, that the players were very relaxed, because there was obviously quite a lot of excitement because for them it's a massive deal for them when you see that they've nearly sold out their tickets for it. Ipswich, which is a massive credit to them because they didn't have to all turn up for a game against a National League South side, but probably because a lot of the supporters haven't been able to get a ticket this year because of how well they've done in the league. They thought, well, let's go and enjoy a bit of a cut run. We'll probably score a few goals. It'd be a good day out, and to see nearly 5,000 Maidstone supporters, it'd be a proper cup atmosphere. And the players were so relaxed at the game. They were playing some darts. They were doing their quizzes. A few were doing the initiation song. Some really good ones actually in there as well. And some of them haven't been great this year, but there were a couple of good ones that night. And afterwards, the gaffer actually, because the players had all gone to bed because obviously they needed to get their rest, and the gaffer was like, "Should we go out for a drink?" I was like, "Yeah, all right." So it's just me, Craig Vagan, a couple of media team, and the coaching staff. And that was a time where I actually had to take a step back and think, look, I'm going out for a drink here with the manager of Maidstone United the night before the biggest game of our history. And I thought, I'm just a supporter at the end of the day. I don't get paid to do this. This is like, every supporter's dream to be doing that. And, because our hotel was so close to Portman Road, we walked past it and, we were just taking it in because, on the day they wanted to turn up, fully ready for business. And we all just looked at him thinking, this is crazy that we're here. It's like, we're just a club that, the week before we were going to Slough Town. No disrespect to Slough Town, by the way. But, the size of club and stadium, you just think, like, this is just a completely new level. And I could safely say I had one too many drinks that night because I mentioned it on the podcast the other week and said I turned up to the biggest game of our history hungover. We had a couple of mates come over from various parts, I think it was America and Africa as well, and they just kept giving me Jaeger bombs. I just keep downing them, and I blame them fully for my actions in the morning after, waking up hungover, thought I was going to be late for the game. Our photographer, Helen, bless her, she didn't go out with her. She wanted to get her sleep, and she tried to keep phoning me and everything like that. And I'm like, oh God, I'm late. I missed breakfast and everything. And I thought, oh God, this isn't happening. It's like, this is going to be a disaster of a day. And we got there, and I thought, I'm going to walk to the ground. I am. Mainly because I wanted to enjoy it, but also I didn't want to fry up in Helen's car as well. So, I had a little walk across the bridge. Went to look at the stadium, and because it was an early kickoff, there were a lot more supporters around than usual, and it was crazy. And even getting things like my media pass, it was a proper official media pass, and they were actually apologising to us, saying, "Oh, sorry, we didn't put your photo in it." I'm like, we don't get that at National South level. I'm not bothered about that. It's like, it was so official, it was. And like, they were so welcoming. They were open. There were people opening the doors for us. People just literally just opening doors for people and going into the media lounge. Meeting everyone. And they were a massive credit. They were, everyone, to make us feel so welcome. At a ground like that and on an occasion like that, because they wanted to make it, like a special day for us. And that includes their supporters as well. So there was a big credit to them for turning out. And then you go down for the warm up, and I even get a look at the pitch for the first time. And you're looking around thinking, like, in a couple of hours' time, this is going to be full crowd in here. Our biggest crowd we played in front of was just under 10,000 at Wrexham last year, and even then that was a completely new level for us. But this was going to be nearly 3 times that. And it didn't sink in until I saw all of our supporters, occupying. I think it was the East Stand, I think it was. I can't remember, to be honest, at the top of my head. They just packed out the whole of that stand. The chants were starting. It was absolutely brilliant. I felt a proper atmosphere. The players come up for the warm ups. They didn't know what to do. They were almost a bit like, they were obviously in fully game mode, but they're almost like, this is like, what? It's like, this is really happening, isn't it? And I got to meet loads of people. I got to meet a couple of people. I got to meet Curly through. Used to be on Soccer AM. I've been in a couple of the videos and that sort of thing in the background of a few of the videos. I've always had good chats with him, and it was funny because he was actually at Stenning Town at our first game, in the cup run, and he was actually presented for Ipswich Town. So we thought, like, that was just written in the stars. That was. We thought, like, we can see you again. So that was brilliant. And and then eventually, after the warm up finished, I had to leave one of the stands to go and get into the other stand because it was different buildings and it was a proper maze. Eventually, after a couple of times, I found my way through, and then you get up there, and I found Craig Tucker up there, and we just looked at each other and thought, nah, I'm not here. Like, pinch me when I'm dreaming. So that was brilliant from that aspect of it. And then the game starts, and for that first 10, 15 minutes, we were in free fall. I thought we were going to get annihilated here. If everyone remembers, even for the first 2 minutes when George Fowler makes an important block, I think it's from Nathan Broadhead. A couple of minutes later, Sarmiento hits the post. Hutchinson hits the post. Coverland pulls out 2 brilliant saves. And you're thinking, oh, God, this is going to be a long afternoon, this is. Because I've normally, during games and that, I struggle to tweet bits because the quality of the game is never that good. But that first 10 minutes, I must have tweeted about 5 or 6 times going, Ipswich chance. And I just thought, oh, God, this is just going to be painful. Like, it's just going to be a cricket scoreline here. And, I think it took us about 20 minutes to really settle into the game. I think the players were a bit too excited. They were a bit all over the place, a bit disorganised. But once we settled in that, we actually looked fairly comfortable. We were restricting them to chances outside the box, which is what we wanted to do. And, they still kept coming at us. They absolutely battered us in that first half. And then out of absolutely nowhere, they get this, Sarmiento gets a corner and plays it in. And then, we head it away. Liam Sol. And a couple of times it happened where Lamar Reynolds, was going to be clean and through on goal. If we got one pass right, they were playing such a high line. I thought, if we get one ball right here, we could create a problem. So Liam Sol, picks out this ball, which I couldn't have even picked out. I don't think anyone could. He looks up, finds Lamar, and then he takes his first touch. And, I'm thinking, oh, God, here we go. He's going to blast it over. It reminded me a little bit of that scene. I mean, for your namesakes and Twitter, up the FN Ducks, it reminded me a little bit of that first Mighty Ducks movie where, Charlie was played through on goal, and then it's like, it almost felt like that when Lamar was played in on goal. And, I just thought he's going to blast it over. Every time he's been put in on goal this season, he's going to miss it. But he came up with an absolute world-class finish. He chips it over the goalkeeper. And, I said it to Lamar, and it wasn't me being exaggerated. it was one of the best moments of my life, because the fact that we'd scored at a championship side, not just a championship side, a side that was going for the Premier League. They had, Champions League experience, Premier League experience, Euros experience, World Cup experience. And you just think, it will never get any better than this. And, the celebrations were absolutely fantastic. I watched that goal so much more than I do the second goal because of how class it was. And the celebrations were just fantastic. And as I said, at half time, I think had the game ended like that, we'd gone on and lost the game 4 or 5-1. I wasn't bothered. I thought we've scored in front of the BBC cameras. We've created our moment.
Yeah,
exactly. And I thought, look, they're going to turn up the screws. They've got their regulars on the bench, like Chaplin and Wes Burns. I thought it's going to, we're just going to enjoy the moment while it lasts. And then second half comes, and to be fair, we started okay actually. We were knocking the ball a little bit about more, and we got into the box a couple of times, but never really obviously caused them a problem. And then, Paul Appiah sort of lost the ball a little bit in the middle of midfield, and they punished us. Sarmiento did what Sarmiento does, took his goal very well, actually, and just thought if anyone was going to get a goal, it was going to be him. With the experience guy, he was such a dangerous player to play against. Before we make one mistake and give him that half a chance, he will take it. And, he did. It was a good finish in the end. And then immediately you're thinking, here we go. We're going to go and lose the game now, 3 or 4-1. Because we've been here before where we've taken leads, at Football League clubs like Blackpool and Milton Keynes, and then we go on to lose the game 3 or 4-1. So I thought, well, it's going to happen again. So, it's been nice. Let's see how long we can go out without it again, basically. And then, 10 minutes later, George Fowler brings down Sarmiento, which, thank God they're not a Premier League side yet, Ipswich, because VAR would have got involved in that because it was 100% a foul. And then Lamar Reynolds breaks down the left-hand side and plays in Sam Corn. And to be fair, it's one of those moments where you go, if Sam Corns gets the first touch right, he's going to score, because you always have confidence in him in front of goal. And, someone manages to sneak it in. And even though he didn't kick it actually on the foot he wanted to kick on his right, kick it across goal. He ended up hitting his right foot and then go into the near post. And then you knew your luck was in that day. And again, the celebrations were fantastic. They were seeing, him going to celebrate, pointing to the back of his shirt. And immediately you're thinking to yourself, look, we can actually do this here. It's like saying, this it's just written in the stars. That's our second attempt at the game, and we've scored both of them. And it's just the stats, were just absolutely ridiculous. And by that point, I think they brought on the big guns, the likes of Chaplin and Burns. So you thought, right, okay, they will come at us, they will get more chances, but can we just stay behind the ball in that now and just kill it off? And again, I think after that, bar maybe Wes Burns' shot across goal, which he should have scored. It didn't really, cause us many problems. I think Covenant had to make a big save from Chaplin, which, by the way, again, if VAR had been involved in that, if it'd gone in, it would have been a disallowed because he handballed it, and so it would have proved justice if it had he scored it because of the goal we scored. Thankfully, obviously, it didn't go in. And then, you're looking at the clock and you're thinking there's not long left here. And then, Cobbler makes another brilliant save in the top corner. And you're thinking, it was 8 added minutes when I thought, oh my God, this is going to be painful. And you just I think that's the thing I said in the first time I came to the podcast. I looked at the clock, I think after we scored that second, every 10 minutes, I'm going, right, okay, we're not going to get fresh anymore. The 90th minute going, right, we're going to lose now by the odd goal, so that'll be fine. And then you look at 97 minutes and thinking, we're going to get into a replay here. We're going to take them back to the Gallagher. We're going to get more and more money and more exposure, and we're going to be in the 5th round draw. And then, the last header came in from George Edmondson, their only player that started for their last league game. And then I'm looked to the clock and I'm thinking, all Covenant has to do is get this kick right and we've won the game. And then that's the thing. I genuinely believed it. It was the only time I thought we were going to win that game was when that ball was in the corner, because I thought they're going to get another chance. They're going to break their hearts. It's going to be all for nothing. And then Dooku, takes a brilliant touch. It's the perfect ball. It was played into the corner. Final whistle goes and I just didn't know what to do. I'm just jumping up. I'm screaming. I'm shouting. I mean, I am surprised none of the Ipswich fans wanted to beat me up. Because I'd lost it about 2 or 3 times at that press box. I think apparently after the first goal, I didn't realise this, that all the national media turned around to me, that they looked at me and my reaction. And, for me, that was, I thought that's brilliant because they've watched me, experience one of the best moments of my life, watching that goal go in. And then obviously they probably looked at me again and thinking, that's what it means, to be in the 5th round of the FA Cup. You know, I didn't want to do his help. I hugged Craig. I was just shouting and screaming. Obviously, I had to put the and I immediately think, oh God, I have to put the tweet out here. And you know, eventually I got it done, even though I missed the like, this is huge, this is massive, this is unbelievable. I forgot the third is, and that still haunts me to this day now, because every time I read that tweet, I got it completely wrong. Thankfully, a couple of the people that were editing that tweet, putting their social media post, put the third is in, so I was quite happy about that. But then all of a sudden, I think in about 30 seconds, our notifications went absolutely crazy. I think it was 7,000 likes in the first minute. And, you know, then suddenly we were getting tweets coming through from Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds saying, congratulations, well done. And I'm like, what?
What's going on?
And then eventually, obviously, I got down, you know, at the end of the game, because eventually I managed to get down and see some of the players. I got, you know, a photo of Lucas Coverland in front of the scoreboard. It's probably one of the best photos I'm going to keep hold of. You know, him with his Man of the Match award. You know, and it was unbelievable. Like, just even going to the changing room afterwards. They're all, you know, water's all over the place. They're all still in their kits. They're going on the pitch, FaceTiming their families, you know, who were outside the ground. It was crazy. You just didn't want to leave the ground. As much as I was absolutely shattered from it all, I didn't want to leave the ground, because I'm like, once you go, that moment goes. That's the thing. You forget, you don't say you get it, but it's like, it's gone. And it's like, you want to take it every moment you can. And like, that day was just unexplainable. You know, a club from the sixth tier of the English game. We were playing against Slough Town, you know, the week before, and we've just beaten a side they're going to probably get promoted to the Premier League. They've got a manager who just a couple of years before that was working under Jose Mourinho at Manchester United. So, you know, I think people have to look at it. I'm going to be biased anyway, but I think it's got to be put in that, you know, category of now the biggest FA Cup shocks of all time, because 98 places between the sides, and you know, it wasn't just 98 places talking from League One down to maybe the 7th, 8th tier. This is like a team, you know, that played such, you know, extractive football, and the way they played, you know, I was enjoying it. I mean, I must have, like, you know, I didn't want us to concede. I was actually enjoying watching Ipswich, just the way they played. I thought, this is a new level. You know, we're never going to see this type of football every week, so you've got to try and enjoy it. I mean, Amari Hutchinson, I mean, what a player.
Yeah.
Just, you know, the way he cut inside. Harry Cipriano has been one of our best players this season, and he got torn a new one at left back. And I think he'd be afraid to admit that. But this is a man that's like been on the books at Chelsea at the moment. I think he's been linked now with moves to the Bundesliga and the Premier League. And yeah, it was incredible. Just because a lot of people saying because they made 10 changes, they thought it makes a massive difference. I'm like, well, it doesn't, because a lot of those players are still heavily involved in that first team. I mean, I think the only one they reckon that was probably, you know, much of a squad player was Sonny Aluko. But rest of them, like, are all involved in that team that play week in, week out, whether it's, you know, starting in the team or coming off the bench. They're all regularly involved. So, you know, I think we deserve a lot more credit than what some people will give us, because, you know, and again, we turned up to that game. We had one available striker who we only signed on the Tuesday, Manny Duku, who was playing in Gibraltar, just think like the week before that. And like, that's the thing. If we lost him, we'd had no strikers up top. We had suspension to Rafe Brown of our defenders. We had a couple of midfielders who were cup tied. We didn't even play our best side that day. And, you know, we couldn't even fill the bench. Obviously, we were allowed 9 subs. We only had 7, and about 3 or 4 of them are youngsters. And do you know what the most pleasing thing about that day was? You know, the fact that by the end of that game, we had 3 of our players that have come through our youth system. We had Bivish Garong, who's come through, you know, the youth system about, I think it was good, 7-8 years ago. Riley Court, who's part of our academy, you know, he's only 17 years old. He'd only played a couple of National South games before that. It's a real one for the future. And Perry Indolo, you know, a Maidstone fan growing up, not a massive regular in the team. But I'm looking and thinking that 3 players we brought through, you know, that have, you know, really, you know, caught the imagination of those supporters, because a lot of those young supporters in there will be thinking that could be us one day. And I want that to be us. And, you know, the academy's slipped a little bit in recent years, but that gives everyone the hope now that everyone wants to come to the academy thinking, look, work hard, you can play at a stadium like that and achieve what, you know, likes of Riley have. Because, like, again, he did not look out of place when he came on. He was fantastic. For a 17-year-old, that much pressure, you know, 27,000, it was absolutely crazy. So it's a day that will live long in my memory for sure, you know, and it was an incredible experience. And Ipswich Town was so gracious in defeat. You know, all their supporters coming up to us, shaking our hands, saying congratulations, all their media staff. I mean, I gave Marcus, who I think he's headed their media and communications down at Ipswich. I gave him a message after they beat Huddersfield to say, well done, and get promoted, saying, look, you made it our day in the sun, you know, when we came to you. Now it's your day in the sun. So, yeah, I mean, I'll be keeping a close eye on Ipswich Town next year, because I really want them to do well in the Premier League. And I was really pleased when they got promoted, because like you said earlier, Sam, I think it makes that result look a little bit better for us. This is a team now that are going to be playing against some of the best sides in world football, let alone England. And I think it's fantastic for non-league football, everyone in Maidstone, the town of Maidstone, and the football club, because we've now written ourselves into true FA Cup history, which I'm so proud of.
Yeah, this is it. It's FA Cup history. So looking at it from a neutral's point of view, I mean, it was like, it was on the television, so I was watching it, and everyone assumes the neutral stance of, the underdog. We're all rooting on kind of Maidstone side, watching it. Again, not I like the way Ipswich played, nothing against Ipswich, but you go for the underdog, and it was an FA Cup of kind of that anyway. Because obviously you then had the Coventry story that kind of moved on as well, and then they had their run. It was just incredible. I remember seeing. Yeah, that first goal kind of, as you said, came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden you were thinking, "This is incredible!" Just that they're leading, and I'm watching it going. I'm not sure this is gonna, Ipswich at that time was still pretty impressive, and then once they got the equaliser, you thought, "Here we go. This is, they're now going to pile on. Their quality's going to take." And I think I'd kind of at that point I was half doing something else, I was kind of watching it, and then when you got the second, and I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, hold on, something's occurring here. And I think I had something on that was just about the end of the game, and I think I was being pressed to go, and I was like, no, hang on a minute, something's happening here. I need to witness this. An absolutely incredible game, an incredible occasion, and say for you, mate, and say I think everybody else who watched it will remember it too. So it's absolutely incredible, and I'm sure that replay and the highlights will be continued to watch by yourself for many years yet to come.
I watched it again today, believe it or not. I was watching it again because it's like you got to watch them almost at least once or twice a day just to really take it in, because in 20, 30 years time. This is the thing, like by Spartans, for example, they're a team that still talks about with their run back in 78. Yeah. And, we're now on a par. I mean, I think Blythe Spartans, because of the league they were playing in, probably still be, the top FA Cup run, if you like. But we must be so close to that now because, like I said, we're the first team in 45 years to reach the 5th round of the FA Cup as a National League South club. I mean, that's unbelievable. Like, and it gives hope, for a lot of the clubs down at our level, because Kingham Mr. Harris, to be fair, they nearly did it themselves a couple of years ago, and they were probably just a few minutes away from causing the biggest FA Cup shock in history with beating West Ham, and they obviously conceded last minute. And the fact is, I've always said the gap between National League and the Football League is getting shorter, but the National South and the Championship, there's such a massive difference, in the quality of football, the players they bring in, the money they're on, the support base they have. And I mean, we beat a team that their most famous supporters, Ed Sheeran, and I'm like, imagine him watching that game and thinking we've just lost to a non-league side, like Maidstone. And that's the thing. The best part, I think, it wasn't until when you get in the car after the game and you actually give yourself a chance to have a bit of a break and have a look through social media and go see the reaction. And when I saw all the tweets coming from the likes of Alan Shearer, Gary Lineker, Luke Litter as well, he even tweeted. Like obviously Rob and Ryan, they both getting onto us as well. You're thinking like this has reached global. And that's when you knew this game was going to go global. And that's what I'm more pleased about, because it's put the club now everywhere I'm going to go now. Hopefully everyone will go, oh, I remember Maidstone, they beat Ipswich in the FA Cup. If you wear the shirt that we wore that day, people will remember us. And I'm just really proud as a supporter more than anything. As much as the fact I've been so lucky, I've been able to be behind the scenes. I got to be with the team on that day. I've got photos, that last me a lifetime. And, I'm so grateful to Helen Cooper, who's our photographer. She does a phenomenal job at the football club. And obviously John Googe as well, who I work with in the media as well. They're both absolutely brilliant. And, the way they help me, they take the mick out of me all the time. And, we've got a really good, relationship, with the way that we work, because we're good mates as well outside of, the club as well. With me, we're doing a quiz tomorrow as well and everything like that. So that's the thing. It's a real family club. And, when I looked at it thinking, look, all these media people that come into Ipswich, they're all paid to do it. They're all in internships and all that sort of thing. They're earning a full-time wage out of this. Most of us, I mean, particularly me and Helen, we do this out of our love for the football club. I gave up a couple of days of work to come up for the game early. And I'm so glad I did, because, just to, look back at it thinking, I've got those memories now for the rest of my life. And, that's just never going to happen again. And that's the thing. Everyone probably expecting that thing, well, we should be getting to the 4th, 5th round next year. And you think, no, it doesn't work like that. We're going to go at second qualifying round there next year. But if we do, I don't think we'll be too bothered thinking, well, look, we did well last year. Why do we need another cut run? I mean, it'd be great to have another cut run, but it's like, I think our club secretary felt it the most, because after we beat them and we got down to the bottom, he said, I've already had 15, 16 emails from media inquiries about tomorrow. And I'm just like, Like, that's just not what we're used to. Like, you know, that's the thing. It's like we get about 2 or 3 media people that come from other teams and that sort of thing. We don't really have any media conferences and that. But the moment that happened, you know, TalkSport wanted us, BBC wanted us, ITV wanted us, Sky Sports wanted us. Everyone wanted a piece of Maidstone after that. And, you know, it puts the club back on the map. And well, that's the thing. Like, everyone's going to see the badge now and everyone's going to remember those moments. And, you know, I'll be loving it when, you know, 30, 40 years' time, you know, everyone's talking about FA Cup runs and then our goals are going to get showed and everyone's going to be discussing about, oh, what about this when Maidstone beat Ipswich? That's what the history now we've created here. It's not just a typical, you know, little cut, you know, giant killing and that, you know, we've beaten a team from 2 or 3 leagues above us. This is a team that are 4 leagues above us. We did it away from home without our best team, you know, against a side that were probably going to get promoted to the Premier League. And they're such an historic club, Ipswich. And I know that supporters are putting it down as the most embarrassing result in their history. And, you know, you can't blame them because, you know, in any other day, they should be beating us. And I think I've always said if we'd lost that game, we would have lost that game 99 times out of 100, you know, with the amount of chances they had, 38 shots to 2. And I saw some of the other stats as well. I think we put in 1 cross in the whole game. And I still remember that cross as well. It was Gavin Hoyt's one in the first half. So, like, it's just these little things you're looking at and thinking the stats were ridiculous. That should not have happened. But that's what's going to make the win more special. The fact that, look, we did it, you know, with not having to bat them or anything like that, or, you know, even really deserving in terms of stats and that to win it. We won it because we showed our character. We were a bit lucky. We were resilient. And, you know, everyone fought for each other. And, you know, you need your goalkeepers to have the best game of their life. And Lucas Coverlay, my God, he had the best game of his career.
Yeah.
12, I think it was 12 saves he made in the end. And afterwards, you know, he's just going and saying, it was a normal day at the office. And I'm like, you can't do it like that. You just can't. It's like, I know he's joking, but it's like, you've just had the game of your life in there. It's like, because, you know, everyone wants him now. And that's the thing. If he goes on and gets a Football League move out on the back of that, then I've got no grudge against that. Because we've already lost a couple of our players from the cut run to, you know, sites in Scotland, you know, because they wanted, you know, they clearly watched the cut run and thought, we wouldn't mind having them in our team. But yeah, like, if the players do get moves in that out of this cut run, then fair play to them because they deserve it.
Yeah. This is it. It's raised their profile as well as the clubs, isn't it? So it's a kind of natural evolution of that. It was an absolutely astonishing day that will live forever for sure in the memory. And so we'll cover off the FA Cup because of course you then got another championship side in the draw. It wasn't quite the sort of same effect, and maybe again you were hoping for something else, but a side that were kind of on their own, making their own kind of FA Cup history as it turned out as well. So it ended at Coventry, but I think I'd say more than the game, I suppose. How did the 5th round and the finances must have made such a huge difference to the club?
100%. I think it was 750,000 or something like that in the end, which obviously a lot of it's now gone onto the pitch, which we've started to replace now. You know, because we were a bit like, oh God, we need this money to replace this pitch. You know, how are we going to do it? And obviously the cut run saved us a little bit on that. And then, you know, we've got off some of the debts we had from the season before, where we made a loss from trying to stay up in the National League. So, and then you got to try and put it a little bit into the club to, you know, help maybe the community teams as well. And obviously you got, put it into the women's section as well, which we want to try and push a little bit more this, you know, for next season. And obviously we wanted to go in the first team because we want to push on. And, you know, this hopefully is the start of us. The fact we can really push on now as a football club. And the fact, you know, we've been asking for new investors at the football club for so long. And, you know, our owners, Terry and Oliver, they've both made it very clear. They're saying, look, if people want to come in for it, then, you know, we can step aside. Because, and you think if we do not get any investment after a cut run like this, you know, which we've raised the profile of this football club and not just football club, non-league football, then why wouldn't, then, you know, we're never going to get any investment. So yeah, it is massive for us, you know, our level, and it is going to help us hopefully to build a little bit for the next few years. But yeah, I mean, and just like I say a word on that Coventry game, you know, I think the scoreline didn't quite reflect the way we played that night, because actually I thought we played better at Coventry than we did at Ipswich, because we had more of the ball, you know, and we got into some good areas, but just never quite really tested them, to be fair. And Coventry, they showed us the utmost respect. They played their strongest team against us. I think it was just maybe the goalkeeper that wasn't maybe their regular. Mark Robbins, you know, gave us all the, you know, praise that he could. And, you know, they took their chances. I think that was the thing. I think they were just clinical on the night. Obviously, Ellis Sims got, you know, a hat trick, and a couple of them he were probably helped with by mistakes at the back. And I think if we'd lost 3-0, I would have been quite happy with that, because it's like, I thought, you know, you go to a championship side and lose 3-0, and, you know, then you think that's not that bad really. But I thought 5-0 was very harsh on us. I didn't think we deserved to lose the game 5-0, and I think even Coventry fans even feel that as well. But that's the thing. The fact we went on to lost to a side that created their own cup history, beating Wolves in the next round, and maybe a toenail offside, in the semi-final against United, which would have completed the best semi-final comeback of all time. And the fact that they gave a tight team like a club like that went on to win the competition as well. A game like that, you think, well, do you know what? I think we got to come away with it so proud. And obviously, I think a lot of people say that one of the best moments of that cup run was seeing the players clapping the supporters at the end of that Coventry game. After 25 minutes, half an hour after the game, everyone's still in, everyone's still clapping the players. All the Coventry fans are gone. Bar a couple in that wanted to stay behind. But our players were celebrating like they'd won the game, and and you had to enjoy it. So yeah, it was fantastic. And for me as well, it was great. I got to meet Stunt Peg as well, the YouTuber. There's a little video on the ITV Sport page that she did. She was doing a bit about why the FA Cup's so important. So it was great to meet her. And then again, had it not been for this cup run, we wouldn't got to meet people like that. And I was a bit annoyed because there were so many people at the Ipswich game trying to get photos with Martin Keown and Guy Mowbray. And I was thinking I wanted to do that myself, but there were so many kids around and like adults. I was like, I've had my moment today. I don't need any more moments. So, but yeah, that's the thing. You got to meet all these different people through the cup. I mean, even I remember before the Ipswich game, the commentary, I think it might have been Roger Miller sent George Edakobi a message of saying good luck, and you think like this is crazy. How it's really got around the globe and everything. So yeah, no, there's nothing but good memories to take from this car, and it is one for the ages, and we know it won't happen every year. But if the fact that if I was to drop dead tomorrow, I can go and thinking, look, I've watched one of the best adventures you could have at your football club, particularly a non-league football fan. A lot of non-league football fans will never get to see anything like this, and we're so lucky that we had a squad that were very resilient. They cared. They wanted it. They wanted it more than anything in the world. And yeah, the cup run is creating memories for them, for the supporters, for the management, for lots of people that just love football in general. So yeah, finances fantastic for us, but for the memories more so. Absolutely brilliant. I didn't think it would get any better than this. When we beat Ipswich in the playoff final in 2016, we scored last minute in extra time, won on penalties. I generally thought it will never get better than this, being an amazing sport. This will be the peak, but how wrong I was. So just shows that football continues to surprise you. So yeah, it is absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, just a shame we couldn't get the job done in the league, which I know you're going to bring up soon anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, this is it. We should have just ended with the FA Cup, and that was it. Everything was fantastic, and what a season it was. That was an unbelievable, incredible run, as you say, one that is probably going to be difficult maybe in the next few years in sort of expectations, but as you say, a memory in that you can always kind of hold and will always be there. As you say, yes, we do need to come to the end. We'll close the league season off obviously as well, the cup run being what it was, but quite a run that you went off at the end of the season there. I mean, you had eight wins out of the last 10 and finished quite strongly into the playoffs. Were you off the back of that thinking, well, maybe we can ride this cup run wave a little bit further and finish the season off in a really positive way as well?
There's a clip on Twitter after we lost to Coventry, which George Edakobi was very clear to the players afterwards, saying, look, enjoy the next 48 hours, take the time you need. This is your time. But when you come back, we have to attack the National League South. And the players immediately all shook their heads and they're going like, yeah, we know what we need to do now because we've got to get back to the bread and butter. And it goes one way or the other with, cut runs. You either fall if you're perched completely, you just finish the season with, a bit of a downer. But the fact is we went on an incredible run. We started off with a win at Dover. Again, difficult game it was in the end for us, made hard work of it. We got the job done. And to be fair, I until you put that graphic up, I'm thinking I couldn't believe that the run that we had. It was absolutely brilliant. We got important wins against Chelmsford, who were flying away. They were in second place at the time. They were in a fantastic run themselves. Beat Dartford. It's always good to beat Dartford. Did the dub over them. Eastbourne game. Again, to be fair, the scoreline probably didn't reflect it. We made hard work of that because they played with 9 men for quite a lot of that. And Lamar Reynolds, who hadn't scored since the Ipswich game, popped out with a hat trick from the bench, and scored a couple of real cracking goals actually in that. And then again, you've got some important wins in there against Taunton and Farnborough. And Farnborough one was a really, really important win because it secured our playoff place. And again, they were on a fantastic run themselves. Farnborough, I think they've won 7 in a row, and it was probably one of the highlights of the season in terms of our league campaign because I didn't expect us to go there and actually get a win there. I thought we might get a draw, but didn't think we'd win there. And we were putting a really good shift that day. the only game that I look at when I look at that run, which probably killed our season, was losing to Truro City. So obviously, if everyone had seen in the news, Truro, obviously they were playing games away from their home ground. They'd had to move a couple of times because of problems with the pitch and everything. They were meant to be playing with Taunton, and Taunton couldn't get their games on, so they eventually moved to playing at Gloucester City's ground, which was a good couple of 100 miles away for those supporters. And Truro City, I think before we played that, they played, I think it was 2 games in 3 days, and they were playing that to play their third game in 4 days. And unfortunately, the players turned up with a completely wrong attitude. They turned up expecting to win the game. And I think, to be fair, I think we all did. We thought that if we don't win this game 2 or 3-0, that's embarrassing. And fair credit to Truro, they absolutely battered us that day. They were so much better than us in every department, works hard all over the pitch, got into a deserved 2-0 lead, nicks a third before the end. And, that was the game, I think, that killed it for us, because had we won that, then, or even got a draw possibly, we might have finished 3rd or 2nd in the league. And that would have, given us one less playoff game. And, you get yourself home advantage for the playoffs. And, unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. But the players did react. And I think, obviously, it won't be on there. But, the players went on, got the Kent Senior Cup during the week against beating Ipswich 4-0, which was, again, another high point of the season. Again, I know Kent Senior Cup doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people until you really get to the final. But, we put in a really good performance that night against an Ipswich side who had quite a few sort of, first teamers in there. And we played quite a young side that night. But, again, we were class that day. And that puts us into a good position playing Hampton. And Hampton, they were, pushing for the playoffs in the last day of the season. They were in the playoffs, and they had to get a win to secure it. And, they pegged us back through another set piece, which they've already done a few times against us this year. But we had a couple of goal of the season contenders in that one. We battered them 5-1. And, that gave us the motivation that we needed going into those playoff games. And like, look, we've got it in the bag now. But it just look at that table and thinking, turn one of those draws into a win. You've got 2nd place and you've got the best chance of going up. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But I think on the back of a cup run, if you were offered 4th place after all of that, playing as the amount of games we did in a short space of time, we would have taken that. So 4th place had it been offered to us at the start of the season, that would have been fantastic. So not too many complaints, but just that Truro game was the one that killed us in the end.
Was the difference? Yeah, as you say, so super close. I think, I don't know. I think the stat is right. I'm sure I read it somewhere. Was it the most wins you've ever had in a season? Is that true?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, because I think, if you think about it, I think it was obviously, I think it was 25 wins in the league, I think it was, and then 14 and a couple, I want to say. So that's a good amount of wins that, all around. Because been obviously won 7 in the FA Cup, 1 in the FA Trophy, I think 4 in the Kent Senior Cup as well. So that's the thing. But people won't look at that, and a lot of supporters have been sort of on George's back a lot this season, and people won't look at the fact that he's won quite a lot of games, albeit some of them, like I said earlier, weren't in the most convincing fashion. He was still getting the results, and his win record, for us now, it's probably overshadowed now what happened the season before when he came in, when he didn't get a win in that sort of 15, 20 games that he was in charge for us. I think that's massive credit to the management team for what they did, because getting that amount of wins in that league is very difficult. With some good sides in there. 83 points most of the years, to be fair, might even get you 2nd place. So we were probably a little bit unlucky. But Chelmsford and Worthing just had that little bit more of an edge, and obviously Yeovil went on to clinch it in the end quite comfortably. So it was a great end to the regular campaign. We can't complain about that.
Yeah, it was an excellent finish, and that took you through into, as you said, the playoffs, and you managed to get through your quarter final against Avery with a 2-1 win, kind of keeping in that form, and saying then you came up against Worthing. So I mean, did you feel momentum after the Avery game and fancied yourself against Worthing? I know it'd been difficult in the league as well.
Yeah, I think on the day I wasn't actually convinced we'd beat them, to be honest with you. I think it maybe did help because the way we beat Avery, we got a last-minute winner in that game. When that gives, I think sometimes it's better to win games in the last minute rather than win games 4 or 5-0 because the confidence it can bring to the players. And we turned up to Worthing. They were probably the favourites on that day, I think, because of the amount of goals they scored. Their home record was decent. They've got the league's top goal scorer who'd got 40-odd goals, and we knew the plan was just to stop him. If you take him out of the game, you've got a chance. And we really struggled against him, to be honest with you. I think, like I said in the podcast, Worthing were the better side on the first half performance. They got their penalty, which seen them given. It's a difficult one. It could have gone either way. And then we did react. We got our equaliser through Matt Bentley. And, you know what, after that, we showed up, you know, and we thought we can't get this far and not give it a good go. In the second half, we gave it a good go. We created some good chances, maybe not so much chasing the goalkeeper. It's just obviously painful because, you know, we had a good chance to win the game with a couple of minutes left. Matt Rush hit the crossbar from 6 yards out with all the time in the world. Any other day he scores it. And then 30 seconds later, unfortunately, Rafe Brown, one of our defenders, couldn't clear his lines, and you know, they got into a 2-on-2 situation, which Ollie Pearce dispatched into the bottom corner, and you know, broke the hearts to what's been a tremendous season. But you know, and I was devastated for the players because on that second half performance, they didn't deserve to lose the game in that fashion. But again, we'd been used to so many highs this season, and we thought we haven't had too many lows. So we thought this was got the potential to be a big low, and you know, everyone was there saying there were tears on the pitch. You know, from some of the players, the man, even George was in tears on the pitch. You know, and I almost wanted to shed a tear because you don't. It's the first time I'd ever experienced, you know, playoff defeat as well. Because the 2 playoff cameras I'd watched before, we'd won both of them, so it was a different feeling. It was, and you know, credit to Worthing on the day. They did what they needed to do, and unfortunately, they couldn't get over the line. I was surprised it was Braintree that went up in the end. To be fair, I mean, they're a good side, but I didn't think they were the ones that will go up. But yeah, no credit to them what they've done. The manager's done a fantastic job with the resources he's got. So yeah, it is a disappointing end to the season, of course, but I think I said, look, if we were offered, you know, semi-final of the playoffs, 5th round of the FA Cup, and a trophy as well, then that's a fantastic season for me. I don't know about anyone else, but a lot of clubs would kill for something like that, particularly after the season we had as well in the National League. You know, so exactly, it was very much a big welcome back. You know, like we're back, we're going to push on from this now, and obviously the gaffer's working really hard now to make sure he keeps the players he wants to, and signing the players that he thinks can push us just that one step further, because we really weren't that far off. We just didn't have that luck on the day. And yeah, you know, that's football at the end of the day. It does have its highs, but then it really does have its cruel lows. And so, yeah, unfortunately that day was one of them, but it was a fantastic campaign overall. So I have no regrets whatsoever.
That's it. An absolutely fantastic season. And playoffs is always, you know, even if you're in form, can be the biggest lottery. You know, doesn't always kind of go your way in terms of where it was. Unbelievable season, and brilliant from the squad, the management team, and everyone involved with the club. Before we sort of let you go, we will sort of run through the squad quickly as well. So we've got through just to sort of get your views on, say, some of the players that maybe you sort of haven't touched on. Obviously, Lucas Coverland, you expected maybe you might not be seeing him in a Maidstone shirt next season.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to say because you know, I think we were quite lucky to even get him in the first place, to be honest. So the fact we've managed to have him for the season has been fantastic. And if he does go, if this is the end for his, you know, time with us, then he walks away a massive, you know, hero for this football club, because he'll be a name that we talked about here for years and years to come with his performance at Ipswich and even his performance in Stevenage in the 3rd round. He's been probably the best goalkeeper that the club's had since Lee Morgan. Lee Morgan was one that was a real servant to the club, one of the best shot stoppers we'd had. He had a good 5 years with us. But Lucas, his standards were ridiculous. You know, I watched him in warm-ups, and you know, his routines are mad. I mean, for a Brazilian goalkeeper, I know there's some of them are crazy, but he was on another level. I mean, our goalkeeper coach was getting tired just warming him up. So, but yeah, he was a fantastic guy, you know, to have. I was lucky enough to sponsor him as well this year. So, yeah, he's a great guy to be around. And yeah, if this is the end for him at the football club, then you know, he's got nothing but good memories to hold, and you know, he will always be welcome back at our football club, no doubt.
Yes, yeah, phenomenal season, and will go down, I reckon. So moving across to your defences, who's your standout in your defensive? As you said, the defence sort of became a key part for you, particularly after they kind of got themselves together structurally in that early part of the season.
I mean, George Fowler's always been a regular for us. We've had him for, I think this has been his 3rd season now with the football club, and you know, he's ever present. He's very much Mr. Reliable. Makes the odd error here and there, but what player doesn't? And yeah, he's again another terrific guy to have around the club. A very good role model for the young players. You know, and very much a leader in that side as well. And he's very much happy to, you know, call players out when they're not having a good game. And you know, he's very much someone you want in your squad, and we're very pleased that we've kept him for next year because you know, again, it's obviously, like we said earlier, it's so difficult to keep hold of players, you know, in short-term contracts, and he's one that we've always been able to keep hold of because he was living about 2.5 hours away from us when we signed him from Aldershot, and so he's actually moved now down to the town with his missus, and you know, he's loving his time at the football club. I think he's said it's the best time he's had in his football career. You know, and looking at the fans, obviously, Cheese as a Nolan had a good run of games. He had a great start to the season. He fell a little bit towards the end of the season, to be fair to him. And he was one of the ones that got released. Reece Greenwich is, very much a Rolls Royce, we call him. I've never seen a centre-back like him make the runs he does from centre-back. Otherwise, he'll just go, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to go for a run. With the ball. He's very good on the ball, to be fair to him. For the man of his, height and size and everything like that, he's brilliant. And obviously, the main guy, Gavin Hoyt, what a professional he is for us. Club captain for 5 years, very humble guy. It's very weird because off the pitch, he's the loveliest guy in the world. But you ask any referee, he says that he's one of the most difficult people to manage on a football pitch because he's very different on the football pitch. He's very much a crazy man. He'll always get in the ref's face and all that sort of thing. But off the pitch, you wouldn't know that at all. He's a very shy guy. He is, our Gavin. But we gave him a nice sense of in the game in the playoff because he was injured at the time and he wasn't going to be involved. That's when we sort of knew he was going to go, and we thought we wanted to give him the send off he deserved. So we gave him, I think it was a signed shirt of all the players and flowers and everything like that, and basically just a big thank you, for what he's done for the football club because he's going to have, when he turned up here, he was falling out of love with football. He's never won a league title in his career, which he's now done. The furthest he's ever got in the FA Cup, and bearing in mind he's been at clubs like Arsenal and Watford. He's played at some good clubs. The biggest, best round he's got to now in the FA Cup is the 5th round. So he's got that for his memories. And he was, in fact, I can say he was captain of us that day at Ipswich. There was no better man I wanted to be captain that day. A true professional, and I really am going to miss not having him around next year. He's a true credit, but yeah, I'm glad that we've kept, like I say, both Reece and George for next year. They're really key to our defence and building around them.
Yeah, so good additions as well. As I say, sad would say Hoyt. It happens, and you get to that stage of the career. Unfortunately, it's a kind of natural occurrence. Is on to some more defenders as well. You got there in your squad.
Yeah, again, Rafe Brown, again, another one we've kept for next year. Pacey player, very local lad as well. So again, he's useful to have for next year as well. He chipped in with a couple of goals towards the end of the season, which was helpful. Boney as well. Again, he's Maidstone boy. He's been in Ireland for the last couple of years, and he was probably the biggest shock I saw that we released this year because I thought we would have kept him. Again, he's a Mr. Reliable. Very much a good player in the ball. Very strong as well. A bit of a shame to lose him on that one. Harry Cipriano has probably been one of our signings of the season, actually, because we brought him in about October time, I think it was. And, again, he's had a problem with injuries, but probably for me, the best player at the football club on the ball. He's so technically good. The first couple of games he played for us, he was so cool, and he can play loads of different positions as well, which has been helpful for us. And so hopefully he can chip in with a couple more goals this year because he can be a massive threat inside that box. So, but thankfully that one goal we did get was against Dartford, so we were happy about that. And Paul Acker as well. We brought him on loan from Leicester City. Big part, obviously, of the cup run. I think he'll go on to have a good career, whether it's in, the higher reaches of the Football League or even, maybe League Two, National League. Very good player and a good lad as well. And, he's been very useful to us. So unfortunately, he's gone back now to Leicester. He gave a nice emotional speech after the Worthing game because he knew he wasn't good. It was his last day at the club. So, yeah, again, some key defenders in there. They were a big part of our success this year.
Yeah, definitely. And moving on into the midfield area as well, I think we've got a few of these because obviously you've got a number of players that played sort of short parts of the season, of course, but a few midfielders there for you.
Yeah, I think the one that really stands out from the four there was Jeff Tanga for me because we brought him in from Leyton Orient on loan. He'd spent a bit of time at Welling United, and when we brought him in, he's a tiny player, but my God, he's so tricky. He is, and he was contributing. I think after the cut run, we really saw the best of him because obviously before that he was a bit in and out of the side because he was already cup tied, so he couldn't be involved. But once he got a good run of league games behind him, he was a big talent, and he contributed a lot to goals and assists. And one that I was hoping we might be able to keep for next year, possibly. I don't know if it's still in the pipeline or not, but I think there might be talks. I'm not 100% sure on it, I'm afraid. But he's been a big part this year, and if we could keep him from next year, absolutely fantastic because he's a real talent that will go on to play in the Football League, in my opinion. He's still very young. I think he's 19, 20 years old, so he's still got a long way to go progressing. Jacob Burke Action Pong as well. And to be fair to him, I wouldn't mind admitting to this. I wasn't a big fan when we signed him because I was like, we put some born a player from a team that's bottom of the league. And I've watched him a couple of times. I thought I've never really seen what the big deal is with him. But in some of the games this year, he's almost been the unsung hero a little bit. He does a lot of the work that people won't see off the ball. He's good at winning the ball back. He's very good. His passing's excellent. A player that I think, again, I'm a bit gutted we haven't kept hold of, actually, because, again, he's had problems with injuries. He pulls up with a bad hamstring injury at Dartford. And, unfortunately, that was the last we saw of him this year. And Perry as well, we've let him go. But, again, the games he has been involved in, he has contributed. And, again, he's got, the Ipswich game for his memories and that. So, and Marco Petrasso chips in as well from the America, a former MLS player as well. He's got famous for getting Zlatan Ibrahimovic sent off years ago, in a game. So, but again, he was a useful player. But again, I think towards the end of it, he was petering out a little bit, and so it probably wasn't a bad thing for his loan deal to expire with us. But they were very all helpful in the club's fortunes this year.
Yeah, that's it. Zlatan getting sent off. He's got such a good temperament. I can't imagine that ever happened. Ever happened over there. And there we go. Of course, a man with the goals there as well, isn't Sam Corr?
Yes. I mean, Mr. Reliable. There's nothing more you could say about him, really. I mean, he's easily a League 2, League 1 player for me, Sam Corr. And I do not know how we keep hold of him every single year. Because after this sort of cup run, if I were a Football League manager, I'd be going, I want him. Because, it's not just the goals and assists he provides, it's his attitude, on the pitch. He's very much a leader. He's probably going to like to be club captain, I think, next year, now that Gavin's gone. And his work rate is unbelievable. He's a box-to-box midfielder. He'll defend when he needs to. He puts his body on the line for everything. He will be, he's one of the bravest players I think we've got. When anything needs to be cleared away and anything, he needs to put his head in for a boot, he will do it. And he's been absolutely sensational for us. And obviously the cup run has made him now a much better player than we is. I think this has been his best season in a shirt for us. He was a player that at the start struggled a little bit with injuries. Again, if you keep him fully fit, he's the best midfielder in the National South for me, without a doubt. And I was really pleased as well, like I say, to see Riley Court. He's been given a chance, and we've kept hold of him as well for next year. So hopefully he'll get more of an opportunity as he continues to learn his trade with George and Craig. And Michael Class as well came in towards the end of the season. Didn't get to see too much of him, to be fair, but he's obviously got a few appearances under his belt. And when he was involved, he was okay, but it was a big influence, to be fair, in the A-League game where we came back. He came off the bench and made a massive difference. So 3 decent midfielders in there.
3 good midfielders, and so three more that we've got there. I think that's the end of the midfielders run. But
Devontae Aracibia, he was very much Marmite. You either love him or hate him, because the issue was with Devontae sometimes I thought he was too lazy. I think he got supporters very much annoyed, because I think we're all much a case of, I don't care how bad you are or whatever, as long as you work hard, I've got no problems. And he was a player that had the potential, but just never quite hit the heights that we hoped, to be honest. And it was disappointing because, again, in the earlier rounds of the FA Cup, he chipped in with a couple of goals, to help us out. So they're disappointed, but they're not too disappointed that we've let him go, to be fair. I think he needs to go and get a good run of games and that, and maybe try and build his career again. See Bivesh as well. We've announced today that we've extended his contract, which has been good. Again, it's a player that's getting better and better. I think he still needs time and everything like that. It's, again, if he's on top of his game, he has a worldie of a game. But if he's not on it at all, he's very much vulnerable to making mistakes, and that's the problem sometimes with him. So if we could just get consistency out of him for next year and cut down to a bit of disciplinary, because he got 2 red cards last year, so hopefully he can cut that side a bit down as well. Connor Kelly, unfortunately, we didn't get to see too much of him because he unfortunately a bad injury in sort of September time, cut his career short, and unfortunately he's been let go. And nice guy, from America, did well in pre-season last year, but again, never really got going in the team, to be honest. So unfortunately for him, but very much always welcome back at the football club, like a lot of the players are.
Yeah. That's it. It's just always a sad. An injury can make such a difference particularly in that stage of their career, and it is sad. So anyone who's had an injury, you hope will come back in some kind of way and build themselves back up. But moving to your forward line, I think this is your first row of forwards.
We had quite a lot of them. I completely forgot about Joseph Cabot, actually. We brought him on loan from Gillingham, and he just. again, one that wasn't quite right for us, I don't think. I think sometimes you've got to admit sometimes when you don't get players you bring in that are quite good enough, and I think he was one of them we probably didn't get right on this occasion. So yeah, unfortunately we sent him back after a month. It's the same thing with probably Timmy Abraham as well. Obviously his brother Tammy doing really well in Serie A with Roma. Again, never quite hit the heights, didn't get a goal, and just again wasn't 100% what we were looking for. Manny Duku, again, didn't have much time with us, but the games he's played in, he's played in two of the most historic games in the club's history, and we won't forget his contributions to the day at Ipswich. He ran his socks off that day, and it was his first start for us. He'd been playing in Gibraltar, and he's come from that to playing in front of a crowd of 27,000 in the fourth round of the FA Cup. Massive credit to him. Just unfortunately he got called up by Wildstone. They brought him in for the last couple of months of the season. So hopefully he goes and does well next year. And Matt Bentley as well. Actually, he was a player that maybe struggled at the start with us. He found it very difficult in that to create opportunities for himself. Maybe looked quite off the pace, but I think he hadn't played for a while. But to be fair, towards the end of the season, we were starting to see him influencing the games a lot more. Scored an absolutely belting goal. If no one's seen it, against Hampton and Richmond, he scored probably one. If it weren't for Lamar's goal at Ipswich, it would have been goal of the season without a doubt. It was a cracking goal off his chest, and sort of volley into the roof of the net from about 30 yards out. It was a fantastic goal. Again, I think we've offered him a contract. We still don't know what's happening with him yet, so hopefully we can keep hold of him because I would like to see more of him next year.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got some more attackers there as well. Some goals amongst those
we love
two.
A striker, don't we?
We love a good striker, Maidstone. Yeah.
Oh dear. I mean, out of that bunch, obviously, just quick words for Ogo Obi and Raz de Graft. Ogo came in pre-season, again, wasn't quite right for us, I don't think. But to be fair to him, he's gone the way to Cheshire United and he's won promotion with them. And he's contributed heavily there. So yeah, massive credit to him. Nice guy. So I hope he does well for the next year. Raz Thomas de Graft, I was a bit surprised we released him at the time we did, to be fair, because he was involved in the cup run up until just after the Stevenage game, and then I think it was before the Stevenage game he got released. So we were a bit surprised because we were lacking on forwards that day, so we didn't keep hold of him. But again, a man on his day, he's an absolute talent. Scored Aveley's goal of the season against us, believe it or not. We took on about 3 or 4 players. It was a cracking goal, to be fair. It may be a shame we didn't get to see more of him, but yeah, again, big part of the earlier rounds in the cup. He made a massive contribution. So massive credit to him. And obviously, can't go looking at Levi Manchi. The amount of goals he scored. Obviously, I can see he's probably just counting league goals at the moment because with his cup goals on top of it, he got 20 odd goals, which and that was by the end of November, and it was obvious that clubs were going to come looking at him. And I remember seeing Luke Garrard, Boreham Wood's manager, at a couple of our games. But it was Andy Woodman that got in there first with Bromley. Hasn't been able to get into the team there yet because he's been still suffering from that injury he had with us against Barrow. I think he has been retained for the next year, so he could well be an EFL player next year. We're hoping we might be able to get him on loan possibly. That would be nice because we still haven't got any forwards, believe it or not, signed. And much as you've shown me all the forwards we've got, we still haven't got one signed for next year yet. So if he wants to come back, he's more than welcome to. And then Mo Fowl, do you know what? When we brought him in, I was like, yes, that's the one I've been waiting for so long because his goal scoring record in non-league football was unbelievable. I think at Enfield, he scored about 50 odd goals a couple of years ago. Earned his move into the National League and hasn't quite worked out. And we brought him in on loan from Havant and Waterlooville. And again, on his day, a cracking play, and he's got an eye for goal and, chipped in with a couple of important goals, including that winner against Aveley in the playoffs, which for me was one of the moments of the season. We ripped off his shirt, and oh my God, you will not meet a nicer guy in football, honestly. He was so humble. He was the first one. He always come and have a chat with you, always shake your hand, always have time for you and everything like that. And always loves to laugh and a joke with you as well. He was such a great guy. And I'll be very gutted if we don't get him back next year because, he's a good guy to have around the club, and, you need good eggs in order to make a good team. You don't always need, negative players, that just want to win. You need people that are going to be, helpful, that are going to bond with the team and that, and he bonded with them straight away. So I'm hoping George has got his number and he's going to look to try and get him in for next year, but who knows? I don't know what's going to quite happen yet. But plenty of chips in with plenty of goals, this lot. So they were a big asset to our striking options this year.
This is it. You need those characters as well, and those amongst it. A squad of different types of people you certainly need. And hopefully we'll keep our eyes peeled if we could be coming back. And this is the final five we've got here.
Oh my God! Now I didn't actually realise how many we had now until you've done it. We've gone through more forwards than the hot dinners this year. I mean, this is probably, I would say, the better one of the lot, because Michael Adupoku, actually, who came in, I'm really disappointed we didn't get to see more of him, because he was actually a really good player. In the Kent City Cup final, he was unstoppable. He was, and I think he was probably unfortunate not to be more involved. I think had we brought him in earlier in the season, we might have been, like I say, maybe pushing up the third spot if we got him in regularly. Obviously, Lamar, again, gutted he's gone, because a lovely guy, very much a quiet man as well. He wasn't one to take all the credit now. Even though he got that goal at Ipswich, he wasn't one to take all the credit. And I always remember going into that Ipswich, media room, he was being obviously hurdled by everyone, and he was saying, "I'm going to have to miss the draw tomorrow because I'm working, because I'm a social care worker for young adults with autism." And that was the true magic of the FA Cup, which Lamar brought. And fortunately for him, he's earned to move to Scotland, which I'm really pleased for him. I'm hoping he can go and really kickstart his career again, up there. And obviously chipped in with obviously with the most, probably one of the best goals in our history, as well as a second half hat trick against Eastbourne. So yeah, he leaves with all of our luck and everything with that. Liam Sol, again, moving into the same league, actually, I think, as Lamar, going to another club. I can't remember one that is on the top of my head. I think it's Livingston, I think it might be. Again, one of the most talented players we've had this year, very much an exciting player to watch. Probably didn't get as many goals as he probably would have thought of done, but when he was involved, you wanted him in your team, because he was, very much everywhere. Every time he did the ball out wide, he'll skill up players, he will create opportunities. And yeah, just a shame we didn't manage to keep hold of him for next year, but that's football, isn't it? And so Wam Jeff Smith as well, Mr. Penalty Man, who wins every penalty under the sun in all different circumstances. I think he's won about 9 penalties for us this year. And sometimes, to be fair, I think he once told me this, that sometimes some clubs look for players that just win penalties, do things to win set pieces. He was that player. He wasn't always the most technically best player we wanted, but he got us important moments. So if it weren't for him, we wouldn't have had that moment against Stevenage, with the FA Cup. Obviously got a hat trick at Stenning. He, he chipped in with a couple of other important goals. Again, a player that I think will probably go to another club maybe at this level. I would have thought. Wouldn't be surprised if a few clubs come looking for him. But yeah, no, again, leaves with all our best wishes. It does. So I absolutely love having Sol. A really funny guy, and that a massive joker. Him spraying water over me when I was trying to give him a nice birthday message on our Instagram page was a highlight. So he won't be getting a Christmas card from me, that's for sure. And obviously, last but not least, Matt Rush, who we're still praying that he's going to sign the contract with us. Brought him in from Aveley earlier on in the season. Almost a little bit like Jack Barham, who we had the year before, who's gone to Aldershot. A tricky short player, that causes havoc with defences, just runs at them, just forces them into errors. And chipped in with a lot of goals. I think it's 15, and that in total. I think he told me after one of the games that he'd contributed to 30 goals this season, so obviously with assists and goals. He was a brilliant player to have in your team, and I really do hope he wants to stay on with us, because we could start building the team around him. A real talent at this level. I really wouldn't be surprised if National League clubs do come in for him. Don't know whether that's what he's hoping on at the moment, but the door's always open for him if he wants to stay on for another year with us. But yeah, a man that we needed goals from after Levi Manchi left, and he provided it. So yeah, fantastic forward line that got us plenty of goals this year. And it's a case now of, can we make sure that we build a side around that for next year? With the amount of goals and talent. Obviously, I want you want players to push on and that to bigger things and bigger clubs and that. But as I said, we want to build a team that's going to be here for the next few years and that really can push on, that can play at this level or maybe even the level above. That's what we want to try and do. But obviously, it's not going to happen with every single player. But I think the balance that the gaffer's got this year, has been spot on. For his first season in management, the players he's brought in, the balance he's got, he's had to learn a lot on the job. Because he's all still new to the coaching aspect of it. And I knew he'd be a coach. At the moment he retired as a player, I know he would be. But the players he's brought in this year, and the good thing is, because of the cup run, it's only going to attract more and more players that want to come and play for us, because they would have seen the joy of the cup run. They would have seen the potential of the support base we've got, and you think, actually, do you know what? I wouldn't mind a bit of that. So hopefully, that might get us a few players that can really push on and get us a really serious promotion push this year. So far, the players we brought in have been in high regard from the clubs that they've left. Particularly one we just signed, Charlie Seaman from Doncaster Rovers, who we actually had during the COVID season. Cracking player who's contributed to a lot of goals and assists, and a player we probably would have loved to have kept hold of, but he was only on loan for us from Doncaster, and hopefully he's one that can really shine next year, and he'd certainly be one to watch out in our regular chat shows in that next season. So I think you look at the whole season, it's been absolutely fantastic, and for me to be involved, it's been entertaining a few years for me following the football club from a media aspect. I covered us when we won the league title. I've covered us when we've been relegated. I've covered us 5th round of the FA Cup. I've had a lot to see in the last 2 or 3 years. So I'd like to think hopefully I'll be in for a less stressful year next year. But I don't think this works like that, because that's the trouble with us. We raise the bar every single year. And, we want to push ourselves back into the National League. That's the aim next year. The aim is to win the league next year. And I think it's been made clear by a lot of people. And if we can keep making some statement signings, there's no reason why we can't do it. We're really not that far off at all. Judging my last season, I think a couple of results go our way in a few certain games, we could have really been sitting there having a different chat. But I think for first season back in the National South, it's reached the expectations I was hoping for. And I'm just saying, obviously, thank you to everyone at the football club for making the season that it has been. From my aspects, and the people I know that I've got to know through the club, and it's fantastic. It's a big part of my life, football in general, but the football club has been a massive part of my life, and it's only going to continue going into next year, season after, and the season after that, and so on. So it's been fantastic, and can't wait to see what next season holds for us now.
Yes, is it absolutely fantastic season, and as you say, hopefully I'll push for bigger things above. Always difficult to say as we record this early June. You say there's so many changes in squads, it's difficult to sort of tell where you're going to kind of be at. So I suppose the hopes and the aspirations are clear what they're trying to do and what George is trying to do with the club. But thank you so much, Ben, for taking the time to take us through. I've massively enjoyed it, and to learn through everything that's happened with you. So it's been excellent. Really enjoyed this one. I'd say, of course, you can catch Ben and the Rowdy Rabble on Thursdays on Lower League, and as they will be able to talk every week about Maidstone. You can have every week. You can have your spotlight on what's going on, and hopefully it's that charge up the division
next year. That's what we accept.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. But of course, if you're new to the channel, you know the channel already, then we do, of course, have a multiple of shows that we do cover. We are the Absolute Football Podcast. These are all the socials. These are all the wonderful people that we have on our various shows, and a few others, Ben included, where we are working on a cartoon. We will hopefully by next season, Ben will have his very own cartoon ready for the next season. On Mondays, we do the Absolute Football Podcast Premier League show, covering everything in the Premier League and also European leagues as well, with the team that we have on a Monday. We're going to be doing some Euros 2024 stuff on a Monday as well, because that's obviously very much around the corner. On a Wednesday, we have our women's football. We have Absolute WSL and Women's Championship, covering everything going on there, as well as the Lionesses. Continuing on through the summer, plenty to talk about. And as we said on Thursdays, the Absolutely Lower League Rowdy Rabble is 8:30 with Charlotte and the team over there. They're going on. There's lots of quizzes and fun and games and silliness going on. That's what we love to do on the lower league, that's for sure. I'm hoping I'll maybe be able to make an appearance in a couple of weeks. I've got a quiz up my sleeve ready for everybody.
Yes, so we need you, Sam. We need you to make more of an appearance on there. Like, so we can't be having the same old face. I can't have Claire doing it every single week.
Exactly.
I don't want to do anything.
This is the thing. This is it. If I can come on and be the quiz master, at least I know I'm not singing. So I'll save that for the meetup. But it's been an absolute.
The meetup I can do it fine, but in front of a live audience on YouTube, my God, I don't think I'll be able to live it down. Thankfully, none of my mates have seen this yet, so hopefully it stays like that.
It's been brilliant having you on, and we're so glad that you joined the podcast as well, Ben. It's fantastic, and thank you for taking us again through everything with Maidstone. And say for anybody who's not following you or where they can catch you, where can they find you more on the socials?
They can find me on Twitter at BenStonesFC1. Obviously, regular tweeting about what's going on at the football club. Obviously, all views are my own. So if you don't like what I say, it's not the opinion of the football club; it's my opinion. So But yeah, always looking, tweeting about it, and obviously just a big lover of non-league football in general. So if anyone wants to stay in touch with National League South news and all that sort of thing, what goes on in the division next year, then give us a follow, and keep you up to date with it all.
Perfect.
Thank you again for taking time out of your evening to help, to come and do this with me. I've really enjoyed it. So, and again, massive thank you to you and everyone at the podcast, for making me so welcome, since I've been on it, and I can't wait to be involved with it all next year, and see how we get on. We want to push this forward, don't we?
100%. No, you're absolutely welcome. I've really enjoyed it this evening. It's been really great, and to work with. We've done some brilliant things so far this season, expanding the team and the shows that we have, more that we're kind of doing, and we're lucky to do it with the most brilliant people. So some more exciting things coming up, no doubt, over the summer, and as we get to next season as well, plenty of plans. But so for now, hopefully we'll see you again. If you enjoyed us on the show, we'll catch us on one of our live ones. If not, have a tremendous summer, and big up to Maidstone for next season. Let's hope for all the best. Take care. See you on the next one.
Good night, sir.